So I will start. So it's a great pleasure for me to open part B of the 10th EU-India Smart Grid Workshop at the Indian Smart Utility Week 2021. And the fact that this is already the 10th EU-India workshop on smart grids demonstrates the high importance that we attach to the EU-India cooperation in this area, and also to our work together with the Indian Smart Grid Forum. Both the EU and India have set ambitious targets for energy efficiency and increasing the share of renewable energy, with the aim to ensure access to clean, reliable, and accessible energy. Smart and efficient networks and a well-functioning power market are essential for making these European and Indian ambitious targets possible. The EU-India Smart Grid and Power Market Design workshops have therefore been organized already since 2015 in Italia, Nice, Vienna, New Delhi, Florence, and Paris. Last time again in New Delhi, just before the world started to lock down, and this time virtually. The workshops involved policymakers, network operators, regulators, and technology providers. And today's part B of the workshop will include an introduction to the EU-India high-level platform on smart grids, which is coordinated by the Florence School of Regulation, together with ISGF and Universidad Pontificia Comillas, and with PricewaterhouseCoopers. And this prestigious platform has been established a few months ago, and it will help in identifying smart grid projects that could be replicated. And it will develop a manual for how to address the socio-economic, technical, regulatory, and financial barriers. We will also have presentations on several of the EU-India energy cooperation projects on the Horizon 2020. This will be moderated by Thomas Mikkelsen. As you know, there has been a Horizon 2020 call on integrated local energy systems, and we hope that several good projects will be financed under this call. Two of these projects will be introduced today, Sustenance and Re-Empowered, so I'm very much looking forward to those introductions. And I would also like to warmly invite you to visit the virtual EU zone with an EU booth and booths for member states, and also for EU-India projects and EU associations. So all these activities are taking place in the context of the EU-India Clean Energy and Climate Partnership, which was agreed at the highest level in 2016 and reconfirmed in 2017. And also at the EU-India Summit in July last year, it was agreed that we should strengthen this partnership, specifically referring also to energy efficiency, renewable energy, and also smart grids. Also at the EU-India leaders meeting on the 8th of May in Porto, very likely the clean energy transition and climate change will be a central element of the discussions. Therefore, I believe we can really congratulate all the organizers and participants with yesterday's and today's 10th workshop, and with the very rich EU-India cooperation in this important area. I hope that for the next workshop, we can again welcome you somewhere in Europe. I wish you a very fruitful workshop today. I'm always very keen on having concrete recommendations, concrete follow-up steps, and we will again ensure that there is a detailed report which will also be put on our Clean Energy and Climate Partnership website. So once again, a warm welcome, and over to you, Reggie.
Thank you, Edwin, for giving the context of the workshops, which we started in 2015. This is the 10th EU-India workshop. We are doing in two parts. First part we did yesterday, and the rest of it next 3 hours. This has actually, as I mentioned yesterday, developed into project level, the partnership between EU and India, and also now we have a prestigious high-level platform with very key decision makers and regulators from both sides. So this is a very interesting phase of the Indian power sector development. The current government is keen on privatizing distribution utilities. They are also making new electricity law that will make retail competition, and this is the time when we really need advice, guidance, and holding, and real case studies from how to move our utilities from discoms to distribution network operator or distribution system operators. So this is a very important phase next 3 to 5 years, and we expect this cooperation to strengthen further into concrete areas. Yesterday, there was another session on regional grids interconnection, which many of your colleagues from the EU attended, and there was a very interested in EU collaboration with the GCC, SARC, BIMSTEC, and the ASEAN in interconnecting this 3 regional grids. Yesterday night itself, Matthew wrote to me about some next action points. So coming back to today's workshop, we will be talking about energy storage systems, which is was one of the main topic which last 2-3 workshops we have started talking about it, starting from Florence. So what are the business models, what are the regulatory support for energy storage, rollout of energy storage in the country? We need a grid energy storage support for the grid, but today there is a complete no clarity, I would say, no clarity from the regulatory perspective, whether energy storage will be treated as what, DER, or as transmission, or as generation. So this is one of the top priority in CERC, and they are currently working on the ancillary services regulation. After that, Mr. Pujari had mentioned that the storage will be on top next in agenda. So we'll be briefly touching upon that. And as you know, that 2 blockchain pilot projects has gone live in India. Currently, we are using it for peer-to-peer trading of rooftop solar. First project we inaugurated ISGF along with a technology company from Australia. That platform is operational in Lucknow, where 9 prosumers and 3 consumers, 12 of them, they are actively on a daily basis, they are engaged in trading. This is a mock trade actually on the regulatory sandbox approach. And end of March, we said we will submit the recommendation to the UP Regulatory Commission. Same way in Delhi with the Tata Power, that project also went live on 1st of January. And there are now close to 100 participants, which will go to more than 200 participants later. So that project will be on, again, different trading rules, different months, mock trading. By end of June, we will prepare recommendations and submit to DERC for adoption of regulations, appropriate regulations for that. And when you look at blockchain in the context of the distribution delicensing, when anyone can buy electricity from anybody through retail competition and open access, that is going to be, blockchain is going to be a very interesting platform that people could buy from anywhere to anywhere. So that in that discussion we'll take up at the last, and I will come back for that. And then we will be talking about energy vectors optimization and energy smart grids with examples of projects from Europe. So with that, let me extend a warm welcome to Sweda, who will be moderating the session 1, where Mr. Donald Cannon from European Investment Bank, Remy is not there, Thomas from Comias University, Anup Singh yet to join, I hope he will be joining soon, and my friend Vikram Gandotra from Siemens, and Mayank Sharma from Schneider from Paris. He will be representing Senelec, and Dr. Shivani Sharma from Hitachi ABB Power Grids. She's there. A very warm welcome to all of you. And some of the participants of the next session, which is Thomas Mikkelsen, we have Katharina, and a couple of other people are also already joined. So a very warm welcome to all of you. And our friend and guide Matthew Cray from the DG Energy Office of European Commission is here. A very warm welcome to you, Matthew, and good morning to you. And over to Sweda.
Thank you, Mr. Reggie. Just going to quickly share my screen. I hope everybody can see my screen. Perfect. So as Edwin and Mr. Reji did lay out, we have been having a very interesting rounds of discussion, both on the EU and the Indian side, and particularly the joint cooperation has brought a lot of knowledge exchange between the two geographies in the last years. But thanks to COVID, and since we were all not flying high in the air, we had the time to sit down and brainstorm a bit more. And as an outcome of that, we happened to launch this wonderful project, which is the EU-India high-level platform on smart grids. So what it essentially does, I'll get into that in a few seconds, but this platform is housed under the EU-India Clean Energy and Climate Partnership, which Edwin did elaborate on. And we, the Florence School of Regulation, are sort of leading the project along with our two knowledge partners, Comillas Universities, which is from Spain. Thomas Gomez is representing Comillas today with us here. And then, of course, Mr. Reji and the ISGF team. So we're happy to be joining forces to set up this platform, and what this platform has been doing and what we intend to do in the coming months. That would be the focus of my presentation in the next couple of minutes. And then we would get some reactions from our panelists that already Mr. Reji has elaborated for us. And then hopefully the wider audience would be curious and would like to ask us questions. So I kindly urge you to start dropping your questions in the Q&A box so that the tech team can inform us at the end of the discussion so that we can sort of directly engage with you. So this is going to be a more of a two-way interactive session. So do not hesitate, however simple or however tough the question is, we're looking for all inputs to make this project a success. So what does this platform intend to do? First and foremost, as the name suggests, it's an EU-India Smart Grid platform. So we brought together 30 key senior experts from both sides of the geography. And when we did formulate this working group of experts, what we kept in mind is to have a multi-stakeholder representation. So as Mr. Reji did point out, we need the regulators to first lay the rules of the game, and then we would need people who would take that and implement it. So we have the regulators, we have the distribution or utility companies, we have the technological companies and the industry players who are very important in making sure that we are able to move from an R&D phase to a commercializing phase. So we have representation from both sides who are part of this platform. What this platform particularly intends to do is, of course, it's not going to address everything under the sun. What we're going to focus on is pick a couple of relevant topics that's useful, which could be sort of brought to India and replicated in India, keeping in mind the experience that the EU countries have had in the past years and how we could learn from them on what to do and what not to do, and then see how we can sort of potentially replicate it and upscale it in the Indian context. So that's what has been the focus of this platform. What would be our output of this is, of course, we would be developing a handbook, which would be sort of a live document. So this platform would convene every year and try to update that handbook because things change too fast on the ground. And I think we are living in the age of innovation. And I think every day is different for us, for those of us on the field. So I think it would be interesting to sort of plug all of that learnings into a live handbook, and which would be available to you in a few months from now, and of course updated every year. So that's that. And how does all of this link? It links very actively to the live projects that are already happening under the joint cooperation and the upcoming projects. But those details you will know in the session moderated by Thomas Mickelson, which is shortly after this. Okay, so here we have been working actively since October last year. We have set up the expert group, which is constituting of all these experts, and we have been sort of brainstorming and deliberating through multiple rounds on what we need to focus on. And we are currently somewhere between step 2 and step 3, and I'll take you through some of our deliberations so that you are getting a peek into what we have been doing, and hopefully you have some more contributions to help us ace this project. Before I get there, a couple of stakeholders. Of course, we have the European Commission and the EU delegation in India, which is leading this entire project. But of course, our key partners on the Indian side is the Ministry of Power and the National Smart Grid Mission. We don't unfortunately have Mr. A.K. Mishra, the director of the National Smart Grid Mission, who's also the co-chair of this project, here with us today. But they do have this project in mind, and should this be successful, then they would like to take it and implement it, not just at the central level at the policy making, but also towards the state. So there is a long-term vision when we're talking about this project. So it's not a one-off idea that we have, but yes, we're going slow and steady when it comes to this. So in the round one, I think what we did as EU and Indian experts is just brainstorm on the various dimensions of smart grids. I think after sustainability, today smart grids is the word that's almost overabused. All of us know it, and yet we don't know what it is. So that's what we were trying to figure out, what it means when we're talking about it in a particular context. So that I think was very important for us to understand, to be able to even sort of crack on what we want to address. So what we did is we sort of cut through the clutter, and we tried to focus all the different buzzwords that we hear around smart grids and the various dimensions of it into these 4 attributes. So we looked at it from the technological perspective, what's been the case. Of course, EU has had a lot more experience in implementing it, and India too has been doing its fair share. 2, how has these projects been financed? In most cases, it has been either an in-house project by the utilities or through joint corporations such as the one EU India's floated, which is the Horizon 2020 project. Then what has been the regulatory and the policy framework surrounding these projects? Are they there yet in terms of the framework, or what needs to be sort of put in place for this to be realized? And of course, the most important aspect today is also the consumer centricity and of course the social acceptance of these projects around that. So who are our consumers and how are they benefiting, or rather, or how are all the different stakeholders benefiting when you're talking about a particular project? So that's what we did. We sort of brainstormed on these various aspects for the EU experts also to understand what is the requirement on the Indian side so that we could produce something sort of more crisp. So as a next step, what we did is we logically moved to sort of identifying a set of use cases because we cannot address everything. So we need to be a bit narrow in the first round of this particular platform to make sure that we're able to first realize the objective of the platform. So we did a whole exercise, and here I would like to particularly credit Comillas University for developing the framework for narrowing down these use cases. And so basically what we did is we identified and prioritized the benefits which are associated with a set of projects. And then we sort of superimposed it with the impact that these benefits would have. And how did we do it? Is we combed through the database of the EU projects that we have, given that they have much larger experiences, and we identified the list of benefits. Then the Indian experts sort of helped us prioritize how this would sort of relate to the Indian context. And then as a consequence, we scored them through a survey on this. Now, what we did is with this framework, we sort of superimposed it onto the existing use cases that have already been implemented, say in the EU case. And here you can see how they are sort of scored. I don't expect you to see through the slide. It's just for you to show that we have been doing our homework and we have been going through these large databases, particularly the bridge project cases in Europe. Probably some more information on that is in the next session. But yes, we've been looking at the different projects and seeing how this sort of correlates there. Likewise, we've also been looking at the projects that have been implemented in India to see how this sort of scoring applies. And as a consequence, we did get our top scope projects from both sides. You can see that the Indian projects seem to score a bit more. This is not by flaw, but because the Indian cases have or projects have more than 1 or 2 use cases impacting their projects, whereas some of the European ones are very specific. So that's why you see a discrepancy. But we then sort of collated from here to see what we could apply for this particular platform's exercise. And that's how we arrived upon some of the benefits taken from there and applying it to the Indian projects. And as you can see, we have our top 6 sort of use cases superimposed over the Indian projects. But of course, we didn't, this was what the research team did. So we arrived at this point and we went back to the platform and said, now we need to deliberate to sort of narrow down which of these use cases is most important. And after at least I think 3 hours of good discussions with the 30 experts, we did a shortlist of about 4 top use cases. And then we went into the nitty-gritties of all the 4 use cases to see which among this is most pertinent when we have to address in this handbook, and which is sort of the need of the hour today. And after the deliberation, what we did arrive upon is these top 3 use cases that would be sort of taken up, and we would deep dive into these use cases. How we would deep dive into these use cases is by conducting a scalability and replicability analysis and a cost benefit analysis on these. Of course, these studies are, we're taking these methodologies as a reference point. We won't be able to look at all the functionalities within that, but of course, the most pertinent ones when we're looking at assessing certain these use cases for the Indian context. So what we are, or the stage where we are today, is looking at the EU experiences and looking at what lessons could be learned, particularly with regards to these 3 use cases. And then the next step is to see how we can apply this to India. So this is where the 30 experts plus 10 of us in the working group, 40 of us have been busy over the last month. And this is where we have sort of arrived upon when we talk about this platform. And in the next couple of months, we would be sort of diving in deep and having hopefully an interesting handbook for all of you all to read. So with that, this is a quick update on where the platform lies. So now I would like to hand over the floor to a couple of the panelists. Maybe first, I could hand over the floor to Thomas, who could probably elaborate or add to what I've already said. And then probably the other panelists can either react. We also have Vikram from the platform who's here, and Professor Anup. So the 3 of you all can go first, and then we will open the floor to others who are hearing about our efforts so far up until now for the first time, get their reactions, and probably you can make us aware of something else that's interesting that's happening at your end that we would sort of factor into this work that we're doing. So thank you.
Okay, Shweta, thank you very much. I think you were very detailed in your explanations about which are our plans to progress on the handbook and on this task. That is very, very interesting. Here, the challenge is how to mix the European experience that we have been accumulating for, I would say, more than 20 years in research projects with pilots and demonstrations and trying to achieve common methodologies for replicability and scalability and cost-benefit analysis, and also the real needs that we have in India. And also, Mr. Reggie said that there are now processes for privatization of distribution companies or introducing retail aspect that we also, we have been working a lot in Europe for this decade with the specialization of distribution companies as system operators, and also the implementation of retail markets, including residential consumers. Those are major challenges. And I think technology as digitalization and smart grids should be always at the service of these main objectives, right? Therefore, our methodology is trying to understand which of the methods that we have been using in Europe can be replicated in India for extracting lessons and good progress. And therefore, what we are going to focus is mainly in 3 use cases. It's true that the 2 first ones, which are related to demand response and also the introduction of advanced metering infrastructure, we will provide a lot of more supervision with low voltage networks, and that would bring benefits for consumers in the side that they will reduce their bills, they will improve their power quality, and they will have more participation in general in retail markets. That is very relevant. And also from the distribution utilities, that would represent a better observability of the low voltage networks, which is a very relevant part of responsible for energy losses, commercial and non-commercial losses, technical losses, and also responsible for what we said is the quality of service indicators. That is going to be a part of our use cases that we will explore how were the technologies, the functionalities, and the benefits. And also in terms of automation and reconfiguration of medium voltage networks, that is becoming critical for increasing the power quality or the quality of service of the consumers, but also for the integration of renewables, because distributor, especially solar, is integrating more and more in the medium voltage and low voltage networks by consumers, and that creates problems for the operation of the networks. Therefore, the automation of these networks is also a critical path. And for that, it's the same. We are going to identify technologies, functionalities, and benefits. And then we will try to apply two different methodologies that has been tested a lot in European projects. The first one was developed by the Joint Research Center of the European Commission, and is based on how are the elements for cost-benefit analysis. That has been extensively used, for instance, for member states to try to ensure that the benefits for advanced metering infrastructure, smart meters, are going to be justified. And there are many studies on that. And the main elements for this is starting from assets, grids and ICT assets, going to functionalities, and from functionalities to benefits. And those benefits should be monetized and should be in some way identify which are externalities, which are environmental benefits, but also which are the monetized benefits. That is a methodology that we will try to apply and in some way to replicate in India for our recommendations. And the second methodology is another one, which is more recent one, but we are also standardizing in most of the demo and research projects in Europe that we call scalability and replicability. That has been developed under the Bridge Initiative, which is a common initiative for studying in a comparison way all the projects that we are running in Europe. And in this case, this methodology is based on the smart grid architecture model. And in this case, what we are going to have is to identify layers. And those layers at the high level are business layers, which represent which are the involvement of stakeholders, which are the barriers and the changes in the regulation, and which are the aspects that affect for market design. And finally, the economic studies are part also of these high level layers. And then we will also look to the different layers regarding ICTs, technologies for that, hardware and software that can be implemented, but in that case, probably the variety that we will observe is going to be very high in India, imagine. But in this case, well, probably the specifications probably are not going to be so detailed. But those are the plans for the next months, and we have to work hard together with the Florence School and with the Smart Grid Indian Forum. And I think we have a good team, and probably we will get a good handbook for all of you to read and discuss. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas. Vikram, do you want to go next? And probably add your views to what's being discussed so far.
Yes, Shweta, thank you so much. And thanks to the EU body for organizing this. Let me start by first saying that companies and organizations from the EU are held in great awe by all Indians, yeah, as far as technology is concerned. Way back in 1867, Siemens had brought the first telegraph line. Since then, we have built railways, we have built hospitals, we have built power grids for high voltage, for medium voltage, for low voltage. And it is well accepted in India that technology which comes from Europe has a lot of reliability built in it, and it is there for benefit of a consumer, somebody who pays out of his pocket. While this is true, it also brings a lot of responsibility on our shoulders whenever we talk about something to be brought for the future. And the way we have worked on this team in these workshops which were there, which so nicely you explained, Shweta. It was a truly democratic process in which everybody got a fair chance to share what was their priority in terms of the requirements from the utility side as well as from the technology providers. It could not have been more transparent and more fair in any way. And not to be surprised, the results which came out were so, I would say,
We can't hear you, Vikram.
Yeah, we lost your audio, Mr. Vikram. If you can hear us, then we are unable to hear you.
No, I don't think so.
Vikram sir, please set your mic. Vikram sir, your voice is not coming. Please set your mic. Vikram sir, can you hear us? Vikram sir, your voice is not coming. Please set your mic.
are you able to hear me?
Yeah, now, please.
Oh,
We
We can
lost
hear
you for
you,
the
sir.
last 2
Vikram
minutes.
sir, we can hear you.
sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Please carry on.
Yeah, so where did you not hear me last for?
Since 45 seconds.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that the next steps that we need to take from here on, they will decide the real worth of all the efforts put in by everybody. And that is where a lot of hand holding is required. That is where, we need to sit with the utilities, make them understand the benefits of this whole exercise so that they own their part of it. It is not that we will do something in the air and it will have its result. The results will come only when the utility also takes ownership and executes this properly. I have no doubt that somebody like Tata Power will not do this, but we have to make sure that the end goal remains relevant for everybody, and whoever is the other utility, they also take care of this. Uh, just to sum up, I would say we need to engage more between the EU organizations and the local bodies such as the academia, the financing authorities, the utilities, the regulators, and topics which we will see in future, which will be very relevant from Indian point of view as well as they are maybe in other parts of the world too, are, for example, power quality, the distribution automation, customer engagement, and topics like cyber security, uh, EV charging, and of course overall measurement of reliable operations and what goes into making them reliable. Because when I say measurement of reliable, even if you look at the networks today, if we want to bring about an improvement, unless we know what we are doing today and how bad we cannot even measure the improvement which will be there. And every utility have their own method of measurement, and there is still not cross country. There is a common way to calculate even basic indices like SID and SIFI. Yeah, so a lot needs to be done, and I think all of us can jointly contribute and bring this change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vikram. I think, yes, the way forward is for us to collaborate and going beyond just cooperation. So I hope our platform can sort of lead that and sort of push this thing into a long-term process. So with that, probably I'll request Professor Anup. Probably you can give us your views from a regulatory perspective. We have been discussing so far about what the Smart Grid platform has been doing and how we have sort of arrived on the use cases that we have so far, our top 3, and sort of informing the larger audience on what has been the regulatory thought process while we were deliberating. So maybe you could bring forth and some more attention onto that.
Sure. Thanks, Shweta. I'm sorry, I am having some audio problem with my laptop, so I am joining on 2 devices. So I think the kind of discussions we have in the previous phases prior to this workshop, there are a couple of things which came out very clearly on the ground, that the experience that we have been demonstrated, specifically in the European context, which highlight not just the feasibility of implementing such projects, but also from the point of view of implementing the project in the Indian context. Shweta, I think I'm having some technical issue with my video. I don't know why I'm not able to switch on, but let me try it.
If we can hear you well.
Oh, you
yes,
can hear
we can
me.
also see you now. Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. So the idea was that there have been project implementations at the international level, which give us a good amount of experience of what has worked technically and what has not worked. But there is a lot of experience on what has worked. So that is something a positive we take from there. When the regulators have to take a decision to pass on the cost of a smart grid to the consumers, it has to take into consideration 2 broad objectives. Number 1, is the investment worthwhile to be undertaken by the utility? On top of that, how much of that investment would be recoverable through the benefits which will be flowing out of these investments, and how much can really be passed on to consumers? Because ultimately, the decision of the regulator has to ensure that there is an improvement in efficiency and performance of the discoms, the utilities, as well as there are tangible benefits for the consumers. However, I would like to just highlight one point, that there are, broadly 6 stakeholders in this whole process, bringing with policymakers, regulators, the utilities who are going to implement it, the consumers, and the technology suppliers. Now, the critical point when it comes to the acceptability of the technology, as one of the recent research we have done, which has been published in Energy Policy also, that there is an urgent need not only to demonstrate the benefits to the utilities, which we are very easily able to convince them in a room, but to a wider consumer base, because consumers are the ultimate payer for this technology, and they are the ones who are going to use it. If you are not able to highlight those tangible benefits through even the Indian case studies, we don't get the kind of buy-ins we should be expecting from the consumers. I think that has been the highlight, I will say, in some sense, of the reform process also, that we probably missed the bus in informing the consumers that, look, the reform process itself holds a lot of promises for you. I think we shouldn't lose sight of that argument, that yes, we need to demonstrate the benefit to the consumers so that we have the necessary buy-in. As we have seen earlier, that when the electronic meters were introduced, initially there was a resistance from the consumers. When the smart grid comes, of course, apart from their ability to control their consumption, there are certain issues like privacy, there are certain issues like technology standardization. If these all can be really be allayed from the consumer's point of view, we will see probably a much smoother rollout. And why not? You never know, the consumers will directly start buying it off the shelf. They say, I want to be the first person to do it. Like home automation, which is already happening, not because the regulator is saying that let's have home automation behind the meter, but people are making informed choices because they know it is beneficial to them. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Anup. I think what Mr. Vikram and Professor Anup did rightly point out is active stakeholder engagement. While Mr. Vikram did say that we need to have the buy-in of the utilities, Professor did highlight that we need to have the buy-in of the consumers as well. So I think there's a lot of work laid out for us as the platform, but we are in good hands. Both the European Commission and also the National Smart Grid Mission Director has promised that once we succeed in this handbook, probably a much larger capacity building action plan could be devised, which again means all hands on deck. And I think our first order of business would be to pass on this information to both sides of the table. And I think we have our work set out for the couple of coming years, I guess. But yes, while those on the ground are actively doing something. So now probably let's move to the other side of the table and get views from people who are actively financing projects and implementing projects. So I'll give the floor first to Mr. Donald from EIB, the European Investment Bank. Since you all have been actively investing in such projects, we would like to hear your perspective on how you see all of this.
Good morning or good afternoon, Sweeta. Thanks ever so much, everybody. And thanks to the India Smart Grids Forum for inviting me today. And of course, to my colleagues at the European Commission. And I have to say, this is probably the first time I've had such a detailed discussion on the high-level platform here. And I am reacting very positively towards it. And I think because it's an original contribution in a technically difficult and complex market. And I think one of the major benefits that are going to arise is actually establishing what is the business case for smart grids. And I hope that, really hope that comes out loud and clear in the first editions of the handbook. And from our point of view, you know, we view smart grids through a climate lens. And for us, the whole justification for investing in smart grids is really to allow a transformation of our national energy systems. And I think it's an incredibly ambitious program. You know, it's about connecting renewables, it's about enabling transformation of our daily lives, electrifying of our daily lives, you know, our vehicles, our transport, our home systems, everything, you know, cooling, our heating, everything will be electrified, much more so than in the past. But I think perhaps one of the great business cases here that's, and you've talked about it a bit in some of the 3 use cases that you've identified, in particular the first one, I think it's establishing a marketplace for prosumers. And I've talked about this at a number of previous interventions with the Smart Utilities Week. And I think this concept of the marketplace, so that individuals and small businesses can buy a small windmill or some solar panels and start selling the electricity onto the grid in an intelligent way and in a way that's secure and that they get the guaranteed pricing. So I think that's for us is really one of the major benefits. And we, you know, we are investing, you know, this is for us is a big area of investment. We're doing about almost $4 billion a year in smart grid investments. That's about 1/3 of our investment in energy in any one year. So it's an important area for us. And broadly speaking, the investment falls into 2 areas. On the generation side, we see the implementation of meshed grids. And you know, in particular, one of the major investments over the past 10 years has been the implementation of a meshed grid in the North Sea to connect our different countries' offshore wind farms. And of course, you know, offshore wind fluctuates enormously, and so we have all of those problems. So what we've done is, using this mesh grid, is connect them with pump storage facilities and different loads right across the EU. So I think that's one of the advantages. And the business case there is really about reducing the cost of implementing the network, as well as getting better reliability. We can manage our scheduled downtime, you know, better outage management, and possibly most importantly, much less curtailment than was before. So those are kind of the business case that we see for smart grids at the generation level. On the distribution side, I think, like India's experience, it's been a slow start in EU for us. It's notably, the investments are through smart meters and all of the benefits that come for that. But obviously, all of the costs at the moment for smart meter deployment are still with the consumer. So that's made it very difficult. And then the factors that we see that are slowing this down is that there really isn't the demand side yet. The consumers are not yet putting that many solar panels on their roofs or whatever. Small businesses are doing it, but not massively. And I think some of the technical difficulties that we've seen are at the regulatory end, where people, as both our previous speakers were saying, that there is an amount of consumer confidence, an amount of consumer understanding that is required to be known that they can sell their power that they're generating, the power that they're storing in their cars or in their house batteries, and get a fair price for that, and a price that's going to cover the cost of their investments in it. So, on the distribution side of the grid, smart grids, I think there's quite a bit of work still to be done, and I think that's perhaps where the handbook can really help deliver a strong story on that. So I'm looking forward to this very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those insights. And I think we got good inputs from the European experience there and where the people are actually putting the money in. I think that's very important. And I think what Donald did rightly point out is we need to look for a business case, because at the end of the day, it has to be viable. So while we're in the experimental and the R&D phase, it's great to be innovative, but then that needs to last and be sustainable. Hence, we need to look at the business side of things. So with that, you probably give the floor to Mayank and then followed by Shivani. So I think you all are working in large corporations that are actually doing this. So probably you can share some of your experiences on how you translate this from where we are into a much large scale. So Mayank, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks to all of the esteemed panelists out there. I just wanted to quickly check if I can share a presentation during this workshop. I don't.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure how am I able to do that, because I don't see a link here to share.
You have to just press the share screen button, which you see in the bottom of the screen.
Okay, got it. Sorry, I was just like going here and there and realized that. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can. If you make it into a presentation mode, probably better.
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, so good morning, everyone, and good afternoon to my colleagues in India out there. So namaskar, and I would be here presenting the Sense Analytic point of view. I'm Mayank Sharma, working at Schneider Electric in France, but here representing the point of view of the standardization, European standardization body Sense Analytic, which along with the HC is driving these standardization initiatives in across Europe. And how do we see today, how have we established this successful coordination model in Europe for the smart regulated activities and through the international standardization adoption, and how does a similar kind of arrangement we see and observe as evolving for the Indian smart grid landscape. So moving to the first slide, who exactly we are. So we see that the Sense Analytic are two of the three European standardization organizations, the third one being the HC, or which relates to the telecommunication aspects, and which are responsible for development of standards and technical specifications for Europe. Sense Analytic are binded through the Vienna and the Frankfurt agreements with the ISO and the IEC standardization bodies, and they adopt identically ISO and IEC standards across the European participating countries. Sense Analytic members are the national standard agencies of 34 European countries, and today the community is fairly well animated with around 200,000 experts working across more than 500 different technical committees and producing high quality standards, technical specifications, and technical reports for the European market. So the key message I would like you to take here is that we are committed to produce one standards to be adopted identically across the European countries. Through the Vienna and the Frankfurt agreements, as you would see in this slide, we have almost about 78% of the electrotechnical standards across Europe being having a one-on-one equivalence with the IEC standards, whereas with the ISO, we have about roughly around 34% of the SIN standards as having an equivalence with the ISO ones. So we believe strongly at SIN CENELEC that adoption of this international standards support the consumer safety, interoperability, and also are very much committed to drive the UN Sustainability Development Goals. Moving on into the next slide. So the SIN CENELEC international cooperation is not just limited to the European Union or the European countries, but rather they have an international collaboration which moves across to the different parts of geographies, including countries and regional organizations. So we work with our global peers in area of mutual interest, and we enjoy, specifically talking about India and the South Asian region, we enjoy an MOU with an organization called SARSO, which is the South Asian Regional Organization comprising of different member states, including India, on collaboration with their strategic vision on the development of the regions in terms of the energy and other sectors. Important here is to also highlight our cooperation with a Japanese industrial standard organization called JISC, where the SIN CENELEC and JISC have a joint sort of a coordination agreement in place where the IEC and the SIN CENELEC point of views are also harmonized with the point of view of JISC and pushed jointly to adoption of an international standardization activities. So there is a let's say, well-oiled cooperation agreements with the different geographies around the world, and specifically with the countries in forms of the cooperation agreements and MOUs. And in this regards, SIN CENELEC would welcome an agreed MOU to be ratified with India, of which I believe today the text has been agreed by both the sides, and it is now pending with the Bureau of Indian Standards for the final approval. We also see many synergies with the uptake of international standards at the Bureau of Indian Standards. So today we do not have an exact breakup of how much is the IC and the ISO standardization equivalence, but we could put this figure to be roughly around 26%. Anyhow, SIN CENELEC shall continue to adopt ISO and IC standards to ensure consumer safety, economies of scale, and interoperability of products and solutions across the geographies. When we talk about, let's give you a little bit of flavor on how the smart grids activities in Europe have, let's say, grown since the last, 10 to 15 years, and how has been the contribution of the SIN CENELEC towards driving these initiatives across Europe. So a little bit of history. In March 2011, the European Commission and the European Free Trade Association issued the smart grid mandate, the famous M/490, which was accepted by the 3 ESOs. And then the M490 requested these ESOs to develop a framework which will facilitate the growth of smart grid standards and ensure their continuous evolution in a harmonized way. And this sort of request resulted in setting up of a coordination group on smart energy grid, or the CGSEG. And this group, the value of this group was that they concluded a consistent set of standards for Europe regarding the smart grids, and they delivered many outcomes which helped in the long run to set up a consistent set of standards, approaches, and methodologies for expressing the smart grid interoperability and requirements. And one of such deliveries was the famous smart grid architectural model that one of our speakers just talked about, the SGAM, that has quite frankly gained a worldwide recognition and is fully supported today by the IEC standards, different IEC standards, and also included as one of the key outcomes to create the smart grid roadmap for the future. In fact, The the coordination group on smart energy grid of Sense and Elec has continued to function well beyond the M490 M/490 mandate expired, and the future to me frankly remains very promising. It has become the first registered member of the IC Smart Energy System Committee, and it will work on creating a shared vision and standardization strategy, leading to consistent roadmaps for standardization roadmaps for different sectors, including smart metering, prosumer integration, and the European transportation plan. So let's shift now the focus quickly to India. From the Sense and Elec observation and perspectives, the electricity network in India, we see it's one of the oldest in the world, which has been connected since 1897. And at the same time, for us, it presents a multitude of facets. So it has a fairly robust and reliable transmission system based on state-of-the-art IC standards like 61850, in substation automations, use of advanced software and analytics, which have helped it to manage the 5 different regional grids into one national grid, one frequency vision in India. But at the same time, we also observe that the aggregate technical and commercial losses are still on a higher side nationally, averaging at around 24%. That requires a holistic application of regulatory policy level and standardization aspects to strengthen the distribution grids network and increase their observability to promote future integrations. We also observe India's strong commitment and steadfast one at the global level for climate change, and their commitment towards adding 175 gigawatts of renewable energy, of which I think around 93 gigawatts have been added since until January 2021. And also besides that, number of different programs and initiatives that are promoting energy efficiency, e-mobility to make the energy supply system greener. So there are policy, there are regulatory, there are financial incentives, and there are standardization aspects that are going into this equation to solve or evolve the Indian smart grid equation. And we from Sense and Elec perspective believe that standardization will be an essential lever along with these 2 other levers to evolve India's smart grid and secure its seamless and interoperable transition to meet the future needs about when we talk about prosumers, smart building integration into the grid. So essentially moving from the smart grid then to the active grid aspect. So globally,
just 1 minute to conclude.
Yes. So what we can say is that we today have the smart grid equation that is shaped by the growing electricity demand that is fairly common across India. We need to reduce our carbon emissions while respecting the constraints of the electricity network. So we need a methodical and standardization-based approach to solve the equation of the future for India, where we believe that we can have a systematic approach to solve the India's smart grid problem by promoting something called, by applying something called what we call the smart grid architecture model, which allows the Indian stakeholders to identify all the different roles and business actors within the energy value conversion chain. As you see horizontally, that includes the new upcoming domains about the DERs and the customer premises, while vertically going in across to the zones to identify the complete system architecture principles from the electrons all the way to the market exchange. So once we follow this sort of a methodical approach that was produced by the Sense and Elec, we can have, let's say, identify all these basic interactions that will be required in evolving and strengthening, first of all, the distribution grid, and then involving the future prosumer integration. So in conclusion, I can say that from the European standardization perspective, we need to have a step-by-step approach in first strengthening the distribution and the resulting gaps in the Indian smart grid arena to first realize the vision for a smart grid, and then adding in more software, more automation, and more analytics to evolve the smart grid vision to a more active grid vision, where the prosumers feel empowered and are also actively contributing to a greener energy supply. And this, we believe, can be done with an international cooperation from IEC, ISO, Sensenelec, and the Indian Smart Grid, Indian standardization organizations. So we highly support such a cooperation coming in with the Indian standardization context with the Sensenelec. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayank. I think that was a very interesting presentation, clearly highlighting the need for standardization, given the grand ambitions that India has. And I think standardization will help us sort of scale at the rate at which we want to or envision for ourselves. So I think with that, I'll hand over the floor to Shivani. Probably you can actually nicely tie in all of these different aspects from your experience with ABB. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, hi, am I audible?
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So a very good morning and a very good afternoon to all here. And I'm delighted to hear all the conversations, and fortunately, I belong to Hitachi ABB. We work with the future smart grid, the future power grid technologies. I'm also part of power consulting. So we are the lucky ones, who actually get to integrate it to the end client. The end client could be a utility, a industry, a regulatory body, and so on. So, first of all, I have to congratulate ISGF and the kind of use cases that you had mentioned. As we have, as India as a nation, we have a very optimistic target of 450 gigawatt by 2030. We see there is a lot of awareness on the transmission side that we see, what are going to be the green corridors, how much percentage of RE we integrate at what places, and the individual state policies and so on. So I was really delighted while I saw your use cases, because they are majorly on the DR, the LV, and the MV grid. So we realized that, this is one of the most interesting places to be in when the power grid is completely transforming. We knew generation, transmission, distribution, and now we have players and stakeholders at almost every place. We see so many of microgrids, we see EVs, we see the bi-directional power flows. And with these new players, the kind of handling that has to be done is really very relevant. And the kind of use cases that you have mentioned. So just to add to a little background to it, when we talk of demand response, there is a lot of aspects which we work on related to the load forecasting. When you talk of sources like microgrids, you talk of EV, predicting the load itself becomes such an interesting case. And fortunately, I'm a part of global R&D team and many global projects. So while interacting a lot with them, what we realize is that, the kind of load cycles that India has due to its demographics, the kind of population, the difference in the economic standards, it's really very, very different than what we see from, the conventional industrial, residential, commercial. Because you see the economic standard, the kind of population that we will be moving in future, the kind of economic living that is going to improve. So of course, the use cases from our European counterparts are, they provide a real good ground rule to us. And then we have to customize it a lot for, the Indian use cases, the kind of factors that we deal with. Because if you see India as a nation, Nagpur is a city which will have more number of two-wheelers. If you see Delhi, it will have a lot of public transport that comes up in picture. So there are, different kind of demographics which also play a role. Coming to the regulatory bodies, from the Indian front, we see that, there is a lot of work that is already being done. There is, if you see the National Building Code, which is out recently, they say that, every building has to have a EV parking. For the first time, we saw that an expression of interest is open for the EV infrastructure on the highways. So, this is the kind where we saw for the first time that what's the kind of roadmap that you will be seeing, connecting EVs on the road. So that is an interesting part from the regulatory body point of view. Also being a part of the Skill Council of India, I'm fortunate to be part of certain discussions where, being in the forum of ISGF, we also need to concentrate on what is going to be the future manpower. So when we talk of new technologies, we would also like to have skilled manpower in future. who will be handling all these aspects, of handling these technologies. And I have to make it a point that safety, electrical safety, is something which we are stressing upon a lot these days. So that was one quick update. Coming to the power quality, which is, of course, when we talk of India, we had a vision of power to all 24/7. But now we have moved on to power quality, where we hear new terminologies like the service of level. So we are no longer just specifying that okay, power will be available, but it has to be there with a certain service level, as in you name the number of disruptions that are there, you name the number of electrical safety accidents that could happen, what's the kind of cost involved. So it's a amalgamation of a lot of technical and commercial parameters. So if you see, for an example, for a microgrid in Tanzania, if you need to set up that plant and you need to get it approved, there are these certain parameters which have to be committed before the project is implemented. That see, this is the kind of checklist and the parameters, or you may say the KPI that we would like to have. At the same time, if you talk of power quality standards, we have our counterpart countries where you may have lot of solar rooftop, you may have lot of renewables, and just to add, from the power grid, from the power system point of view, the kind of these renewables behavior is really very different. Like the conventional generators have a lot of inertia, you can handle them in a certain way, the fault currents. But in case of the new technologies, you take of distributed energy resources, they're really very different. And so, we are also seeing adaptations. We are also seeing places where, the complete grid power quality, the first step is the site measurements are being done. We are analyzing what's the kind of harmonic emissions we see in the grid, and then also taking a quick look at whether the already defined standards, like Mayank has just given a very interesting aspect on that. So the existing grid integration standards that are prevalent, do they really need to be revised? So that again is a very interesting phenomena where we can go ahead. If we talk of microgrids, I was so glad that I saw one project named anti-islanding in the number of cases that you had listed. So again, this is one other interesting, topic on which we deliberate a lot, because if you talk of microgrids, the kind of applications in the grid connected and the islanding modes, and it's really very difficult to detect whether it's an islanding or a normal kind of fault, and how do you safeguard yourself. And I have to really stress in this forum that the kind of importance that we are giving to resilience, to the self-healing grids, is really very, very much increased. We know of the blackout that had occurred in Mumbai, in Germany, the recent one in Texas, where it could not be a certain fault, but due to the climate change, we see a tremendous dip in freezing temperatures. And when we have new kind of players in our grid, we have new renewables, then we also need to prepare ourselves that what about the variability, what about the intermittency, and how do we really be resilient, how do we avoid these blackouts, how do we make it redundant, and so on. So this is another one factor which a lot of work is going on, and I think we need to add our aspects there as well. Also, the another important technology or the initiative, I would say, is carbon neutral, which many of the distinguished delegates have already covered. And of course, the energy has to be smart, it has to be reliable, but it also has to be greener at the same time. So now, we are also talking of things like, having a net zero. How do you actually have productions where you could see that what's the carbon footprints that actually my organization, be it any utility, be it any industry, but what's the kind of carbon emissions that we are putting in, and what are measures to involve, resolve it. So, it's interesting that maybe another 6 months, and we see that all the government officials, the cars that they use, they will be electric. So, there are even push from the government for such initiatives where we are now talking of models, which of course I know some of them are already prevalent in Europe. And maybe we can talk of a microgrid in your office. You may talk of a EV charging infrastructure at your parking lot, You may have solar panels in your place, and you are storing that energy, and what's the application of that energy. So you consume and you generate at the same point. So that is again another important point that I wanted to highlight to the team. So in a nutshell, I think there are a lot of things to say. Frankly, last point from the utility point of view, we see the transmission systems, the distribution systems. The utilities seem to be almost 20 to 30 years old, and before we really implement any kind of technology. Now, for a small example, if we say that we are making Delhi as a smart city, we're making Bangalore as a smart city, then when we try to really convert this, the kind of age of the assets that we are talking about, the kind of feasibility, the kind of hosting capacity that is actually available in the system, all these are factors which have to be essentially analyzed. The reason being because when we integrate, it has to be a seamless integration. We have such good experiences and use cases from Europe, which I'm sure we'll be utilizing it further. So it has to be a seamless transition with the best practices in place. Also, the asset management, the health of the assets is one important factor that we see. So things like a hosting capacity analysis of the existing network. How do we go about it? How do you connect the complete infrastructure? What are the kind of safety guidelines that you would like to have? Because I think there is a little more importance that we need to put on safety in India, especially because you hear on and off small incidents. There was a fire in an electric vehicle, or we have very well defined hazardous standards for conventional petrol pumps, you may say. But what about the battery? How do you do the testing? What about the power quality? And this has to be done on a continuous basis. So these are the kind of replications I looking forward for of course and interchange between the European and the Indian grid networks, and both of them I see they are really very interesting. The kind of operability that we have, again, maybe we need to really have what's the customization, what's the typicalities of the smart grid of India, of the smart grid of Europe, and as Mayank had said, from a smart grid to an active grid, and I would add to a resilient grid. So that would be my submission, and I think I'll add more while all of us discuss. So I hope, Shweta, I have not exceeded my time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Shivani. I think I already requested Thomas that we're biting into a couple of minutes into his session. I hope that's okay, Thomas. I think, Shivani, you did raise a very important point, and I think it's very pertinent when we talk about the context in India. I think we did achieve power for all through the connection, but I think reliability is key if we all want to enjoy all of these wonderful technologies that can be at our disposal. So yeah, even right now while talking, I'm just hoping that there is no power disruption. So yeah, that I hope one day goes away from our mind. So I think it ties in well with what Mayank and Vikram were saying, that we need to take stock and we need to set standards in place if we want to realize any of these futuristic or not so futuristic now to be implemented. So with that, I would like to thank all the panelists. But before we go, we have one key question from the orchestrator of this entire session, which is Matthew from the European Commission. And I think it's very important. I'll address this directly to Thomas, and then probably the other panelists can also drop your comments in the chat so that I can then offer the floor to Thomas to kickstart his session, as we would be biting too much into their time. So Thomas, what Matthew asks of us as the platform is, and I think it's linked to what Donald did bring up, it says business case is indeed crucial for upscaling and replicating, but what do we do with the situation where a smart grid use case has clear benefits for a society as a whole, but it is difficult to translate them in business case for individual stakeholders? What about regulatory reform, socializing costs, subsidies? Will our study look at something like this, and how different is it in the context of India and Europe when we're looking at this question?
Well, I think you want me to answer the difficult question. It is true that especially in the transition, we are seeing that there are many externalities coming from instance, the reduction of greenhouse emissions or the externalities related with social benefits in general. And in that case, that's typically, in my opinion, there are two ways. Changing regulation, and in that case, probably applying subsidies. That was the case for the introduction of renewable energy in many systems, and also how to share this cost among the different type of consumers, not electricity only, but maybe energy consumers or maybe taxpayers. That's a very difficult puzzle in terms of discussing that, but it's true that in India, maybe there are specific solutions for that. We will see, but for sure we have to go into this issue.
Thank you, Thomas. I hope, Matthew, that was momentarily satisfactory enough, but we will address it more in our next deliberation rounds. I think that will easily flow when we're discussing CBA and SRA. These elements do come up. With that, I would like to thank all the panelists for making this session fun. And I think it was interesting for us as platform experts to listen from some of you on the field. And I think it added value to what we are doing. And we will keep you all posted on our developments. Do follow our EU and India handle and also the Foreign School handle to get some updates on this. But nonetheless, by the European summer, you should have a report to read, and we would look forward to your feedback. With that, I'll hand over the floor to Thomas to kickstart the next aspect of the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sveta. Very interesting to follow the discussions here. And even more so, of course, I'm very happy now to be able to take the floor and present to you some of the interesting work that has been happening over the past years in collaboration in India and in Europe. As was said in the introduction, a lot of projects are actually now happening. The collaboration is going forward. Last year, we also had the opportunity to present some of the projects. And this year, with this digital event, we are more than happy now to try to distill some of the key areas that we really will have a high focus. We will have a presentation focusing on energy storage. We will be able to dig into the blockchain technologies, both in terms of how they can become relevant for creating new services, but also for the opportunity to maybe introduce the customer to the chain of events and create engagement on their side. We'll be looking also into energy vectors optimization, looking at how can we maybe create an operation, as was also discussed before in relation to creating smart grids, whether they are big or small, to make interactions between the different energy vectors to optimize the energy usage. And last but not least, we'll also be focusing on energy smart grids as such. So a lot of interesting topics. We're also happy to have the opportunity to introduce two new projects that will be starting here in 2021, the sustenance and the re-empower projects that will be presented, both in terms of what they are focusing on and of course in terms of the Indian and European collaboration. And then we will have an opportunity even to take a step back and look into the new development of storage technologies. So a lot of different topics that will come up. I'm very happy now to introduce the first speaker on the floor, Pierre-Jacques Lequelec from Enedis in France, who has been leading the iElectrics project, which is dealing with energy storage opportunities. There is already a lot of stuff going on in Delhi, together with Tata Power. So Pierre-Jacques, very happy to give the floor to you and let you introduce the first elements in relation to the iElectrics project and the energy storage that you are dealing with.
Thank you, Thomas. Good afternoon and good morning to everybody. Can I share my screen, or do you want to present my presentation?
Yeah, please share the screen. Yeah,
okay.
You have the green button below.
Okay, I will. Okay. Can you see my screen? Yes. I think so. Okay, so let's start with my presentation. So my name is Pierre-Jacques de Calec. I'm working in Enedis, French DSO, and presently I'm the project coordinator of this European Edge 2020 project called iElectrics. So this project is a response to a call for projects related to Energy Island. To reply to this project, we have built a consortium with 15 European partners and 1 Indian partner, which is Tata Power Delhi Distribution Limited. Enedis is a coordinator. The technical director is Ian. And this project is a view from, we can say, from DSO regarding a real-scale demonstration implemented either embedded electric island system or microgrid. There will be 5 demonstrations. There are 1 in Germany, 1 in Austria, 2 in Hungary, and 1 in India. So 4 countries are concerned by this demonstration. The main objective is to, of course, based on this main family of solution on energy storage, grid automation, demand response, and islanding. For energy storage, the idea is to increase the renewable energy sources in the grid, in the distribution grid, without having additional investment, and also to enhance, to improve the local use of renewable energy. For this, we will implement a battery energy storage system. For the capacity, we can say that it's between 200 kilowatts till 500 kilowatts for the capacity, power capacity, and for the energy capacity, it's between 280 kilowatt hour and 1000 kilowatt hour. So here you can see all the partners involved in the demonstration. So each demonstration is piloted by a local DSO. So we have EDIS, Energy Leasing, Ion Hungary, and Tata Power Delhi for the Indian demonstration. Here you can see some slides regarding the progress of the different demonstration. In Germany, this demonstration takes place in a rural area with already a massive renewable generation in place. There are more than 200% of wind farms compared with the local consumption. So it's really an important renewable generation in place. And the specificity of this German demo is to try to implement mobile storage system in order to improve the situation and postpone grid reinforcement. For this demonstration, the battery energy storage system is connected to the medium voltage network. For one thing, yeah, for this German demonstration, the battery energy storage system is already in place, and the demonstration is ongoing. This is the most advanced, we can say, demonstration. The second set of demonstration is taking place in Hungary, and over there it's also a rural area, but it is located in a touristic area, and they face high peak load during summer season. And they want also to implement mobile storage system and also direct load control in order to reduce the peak load and also to address the voltage changes due to this integration of renewable energy sources. There is another location, another demonstration, that they will test more or less the same thing. The first Hungarian demonstration is already installed. The battery energy storage is in place. Here you can see only the installation, but the battery is already in place. The first demonstration is located in Austria. also in a rural area. And in this location, there is an existing local energy communities. And the idea of this demonstration is to increase energy efficiency, energy saving, and also enhance the local energy consumption of renewable energy sources. They will install also a battery energy storage system. And the last one is the Indian demonstration. We'll speak a little bit more detail later on, but compare with the other European demonstration, this one is located in urban area because it is located in the north of Delhi. And the idea is to increase also the integration of PV installation already installed in the roof of some buildings. The demonstration is located in the secondary substation in Delhi, where a large high school is in place, and they have already installed certain level of PV in their roof, on their roof. And the solution here is also to install innovative solution. And the idea is to improve the resilience and implement also local energy communities. And for that, we will install, we have developed, we will install very soon, urban microgrids. I will speak a little bit more after this. So here you can see the different demonstration use cases that will be implemented in the different demonstrators. So there are several families of use cases. One family is linked to the resilience of the local energy system. And this, for example, is really important for India. We will also have another family of use cases linked to the voltage and congestion management. For this, we try to install several solutions in order to manage this voltage and congestion management through battery energy storage system, but also through smart transformer with on-load tap changer. Another family is the flexibility of local energy system. So we will implement in most of this demonstration demand response program to reduce load, to postpone network investment also, and also to involve local communities in this project. We have already discussed that this will be based on the installation of storage system. And a last family, which is linked only to Indian demonstration, is a frequency regulation as a service. So this will be tested in the Indian demonstration. Here we will find, I will make a focus on the Indian demonstration. So the main objective of this demonstration is to maximize the integration of local energy, of these PV panels, in the low voltage grid this time, and also to increase the local consumption. And one important aspect, of course, is to improve the resilience of this local energy system. And we will also experiment a new demand response scheme. Some specificities, we can say, urban area, we will develop this microgrid, and this microgrid will be able to operate in an islanding mode. Of course, PV roof is already in place, but there will be more PV roof top installed in the future, in the next future. And also we have to address power quality issues on this distribution network. So here you can see the design of the configuration. You have here the battery energy storage system that will be installed. There will be some remote terminal units, the smart transformer, which is based on the on-load tap changer, and it is a MV-LV transformer. Tata Power has also installed smart meters to the different premises of the customers. And Schneider Electric will bring also the energy management system, the power management system. There will be also a local SCADA system installed and a link with the SCADA of Tata Power distribution. And we will base also our solution on the heavy grid digitalization that will be installed and implemented by ODT. It will be a way to monitor exactly what's happened in the LV grid of this microgrid. Right now, we have completed the manufacturing. The equipment will be sent this month, and hopefully we will install all this equipment during the summer, I mean, beginning in June, and we will be able to experiment the different use cases. Okay, so not remove this bound, no problem. How we will after use these results? We'll have scalability and replicability analysis that will be performed for all the use cases. And we will do this for all the countries where the demonstration will take place, but also in 3 other countries, such as France, Greece, and Sweden. And the idea is to see if what we are testing in the different demonstration, we can install this solution, and if it is viable and relevant in other countries, but also in other locations in the demo countries. So 7 countries will be covered, both in a quantitative and a qualitative way. And we will address all these subjects, DSO revenue, grid access connection, flexibility, storage, tariff, and so on. And at the end also, we will try to address and give some recommendation to the national regulators. All our use cases have been built according to the SGAM model. So we follow the international standard regarding this definition of use cases. We have defined also a certain set of KPIs to be sure that we will measure the real results. And the last point is how we can improve the collaboration between EU and India. This is viewed from a project point of view, of course. Regarding the project interaction, we think that it is really important to have a local representative in India to facilitate the interaction. So during this implementation phase that it's coming, we will reinforce our team in order to have more people at site. We have also regular meetings. We have operational committees every Wednesday. Since the beginning, we have also regular steering committees, and this is to ensure efficient communication and coordination among all the concerned partners, and this is quite important. Regarding the Indian context, it is important to analyze. We have already performed this task, but it's not over, and review the Indian energy regulations, the different grid codes that are applicable to the project. And we have also analyzed and review ahead of the project the exportation procedure and related legislation, which is something important because if you don't take this into account, you can face a problem to send your equipment in India. And then the last point is the communication and dissemination aspect. So it is important to have a joint event such the one of today to ease the collaboration amongst the different partners and companies in the different countries, and also to encourage common innovation projects involving both European and Indian co-financing. So thank you for your attention, and I'm free to reply to any question you may have.
Thank you very much, Pierre-Jacques, for the presentation on what is going on right now. A lot of stuff, I know. We will, however, go to the next presentations. We have two presentations focusing on blockchain technology, one more on the side of the businesses as such, and one more on the consumer side. We will start with Vincenzo Croce, who will be presenting the eDreams project, maybe one of the more advanced blockchain projects that is happening under the Horizon 2020 grant scheme. Vincenzo?
Okay, good morning, Thomas. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you fine, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Please confirm that you can see my screen.
We see it fine, thank you.
Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Vincenzo Croce. I'm senior researcher in engineering informatica, is one main Italian system integrator, and I'm going to present the eDream project to this panel. I'm very happy to introduce the eDream project. It is actually a project that it is part of the H2020 program, a European co-founded project. So it's not specifically devoted to the collaboration with India, but it's an experimentation that we did in Europe. But our activities with the Indian collaboration is an ongoing activity. We hope to be very soon be able to reuse and export those results and evolve those results for the collaboration with India. And I'm the coordinator of eDream project. That is a project that has the aim of the realization of new demand response program that is exploiting the blockchain technologies in order to advance the markets and the offer to the community. The partnership that participated to this project is composed by 10 partners. Engineering is the coordinator. I'm personally coordinating the project, and is grouping 3 different kinds of players that are including ICT players like engineering, Atos, and energy at work. Then we have energy stakeholders, one DSO from the Terni district, and one UK aggregator that is Kiwi company, and another aggregator is Italian aggregator is Emotion, and plus one ESCO that is Servlet, a Romanian company. And then we have also the participation of Teesside University, the CERT, the Thessaloniki Research Center, and the TUC participation, that is another Romanian research center. The main activity that we developed as part of the project is experimented at this moment in 3 pilots. One is the pilot in the UK, where the Kiwi aggregator is experimenting the new demand response platform for the flexibility aggregation. Then we have the experimentation in Italy with the Terni DSO district that is experimenting the engagement of different prosumers. And then we have also the lab that is based in Thessaloniki, is CERT managing this laboratory, where some of the tools are under validation. We already performed the first validation round for the different tool set, and we are approaching the final validation of the project. The project is going to be concluded in this June, so in a few months. So we are working now in the second validation, and in order to carry on with the exploitation. As I said, the aim of the project is to provide a tool set that is able to offer support to different kind of players. Aggregator will be supported in terms of assessment of which kind of flexibility they can aggregate in order to offer services to the market. DSO is supported by tools that are offering to the DSO the understanding of which kind of grid control and grid stabilization they can perform. And at the center of this one is the big role of the prosumers. The community of prosumers is engaged in this marketplace with the possibility of offer energy on one side and flexibility on the other side, offering their infrastructure and their availability to participate to the program. we will see more in detail the different scenarios. As I say, the project is quite in a consolidated phase because we are approaching the end of the project. So we are now in the final phase of the validation, and we are already working on the exploitation. The first proof of concept was already developed and tested, and now we retrofitted the feedback, and we are providing the final validation phase with the results that we will compose the, let's say, the handbook for the usage of the tool set for the future exploitation of those tools. As I said, we are exploiting the blockchain technologies capabilities in order to provide enhanced vision of the platform to support the community. The blockchain essentially is used for some characteristics that are essentially the trustiness that the technology can offer to the different stakeholders. So offering to the prosumers the assurance that they can participate in the market with a role that is not minimal. This is one problem, one issue that we had to fight, that is that some small prosumer in some cases are not stimulated to participate to the market because they think that they play a small role compared to the big player. But in this case, the platform is assuring what we call the democratization of the process. So the different roles are considered with rules that are transparent and implemented via smart contract with the automatic transaction in the platform. So the trustiness in one unique word, the trustiness the blockchain can provide to the different prosumers is the key point for the creation of this community ecosystem. Participating to this small resources aggregation in order to tackle the big issues of the demand response program. The main parts of technologies that were exploited during the course of the project are the realization of the demand response control and validation program that is implemented via the platform, approaching the two different use cases that we will see in the next slides. Then we had to figure out with the problem of data scalability. We realized that in this kind of context with many prosumers, we have a problem with scalability of data. Then we realized that the flexibility marketplace in a distributed way in order to provide those flexibilities to the different DSO or aggregators. And as I said, we have the two main phases that are the energy trading on one side and the flexibility marketing on the other side. The key principle of the usage of blockchain were the validation and financial settlement, the usage of decentralized smart contract, and the implementation of secure data storage. Two main use cases that we believe are use cases that can be replicated or can be benefit from the Indian case are the one for the aggregation of flexibility from the different prosumers in order to accomplish DSO and aggregators requests. In this sense, the project platform offer an aggregator platform for the flexibility where the different prosumers can offer their flexibility, and this is aggregated and mapped in the bits coming from DSO and aggregator. And on the other side, there is also the possibility to have a trading marketplace where the different prosumers can operate in a peer-to-peer model, offering and acquire and buying energy from the other peers, from the other prosumers. The model that we adopted is a model where tokens are offered as a remuneration for the offering of the services. And sorry. Okay, this is the main concept that we explored is this concept of local community that we are going to extend in future projects, like another project that is called Bright, is another H2020 project that is running in the next 3 years, that is going to consider the possibility to extend those services not only to energy services, but also to social services inside the community, and to use the same rewarding system tokens for the local services and local products selling. The as I said, for the data storage, we use the mixed approach, hybrid approach. We use it also of database, NoSQL database related to the blockchain ledger in order to offer the storage of data on premises and the notarization of result inside the blockchain, maintaining the level of trustness that is necessary. The consensus is offered according to a double phases validation transaction, so it is providing the assurance of the transaction in a secure way. The marketplace, it's actually putting together DSO aggregators and the prosumer. The offer from the different prosumers are provided to the aggregators and DSO in terms of potential matching. And the heuristic that was used for both the energy trading and the flexibility trading is using matching algorithms that are implemented using smart contracts. So part of the business logic is implemented in the smart contract, providing transparency on the level of process that is implemented. And the final part that I would like to emphasize is that we are approaching in the platform two different phases, two different way to resolve the matching. One is where the aggregators are actually aggregating different prosumers and are the aggregators that are managing the matching with the DSO. And on the other side, there is also the possibility that once we have bits from the different aggregators and different DSO, the system is automatically in the blockchain-based platform, determining which is the most proper matching between the different prosumer offer and the different bits that come from the DSO and aggregation side. And this is essentially based on a price-driven approach, but is also considering the constraints of the different infrastructure that the prosumer are offering in the marketplace. And just concluding in this 8 minutes, it's not simple to explain all this concept, but I hope I provided in a nutshell some information. This is the reference for our project. Any kind of interest is very welcome for cooperation and understand more in depth the project, or follow us in our social channels. And I'm also here available for questions in case there are. Okay, Thomas.
Thanks a lot, Vincenzo. Really, really nice to hear about your experience in relation to blockchain. One of the key technologies, I'm sure, as you're also saying, in relation to enabling the energy transition, and especially in the area of demand response. So any question, of course, would be taken in the chat, and we'll be following up in the end of the session. But as I also indicated, there is actually also other opportunities with blockchain technologies. So I'm very happy also now to introduce to you Bonnie Murphy, who will be presenting on behalf of the Benefis project, more related to how we can utilize blockchain technologies and advanced ways of engagement technologies to have people much more engaged in the energy transition. Bonnie?
Great. Thank you very much, Thomas. I just tried to share my screen. Can you see it now?
Yeah, we see it fine. Thank you.
Perfect. I'll just put it into full screen here. Still good?
Yeah, we see your presentation mode.
I was wondering about that. I've got two monitors going, so let me just.
Yeah, that's how it is.
Quickly do a fix here. Any better now?
Same.
Okay, let's just disconnect this other monitor. That's probably the easiest solution.
Still see it now.
Okay, did that do it?
That did it. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay, we got there. So hi, everyone. As Thomas mentioned, my name is Bonnie Murphy. I work with Thomas at Gecko Global. And I'm here today to present the Benefis project, where we have been leading the user engagement component of the project. So very quickly, just to give some of the background, Benefis is an EU-funded project with a budget of 2.7 million euros. There's 7 partners. The project is only operating in Europe. However, at the end, we'll discuss how there might be some links to the Indian context with the technologies that have been developed. And we are just approaching the end of the project. So next month will be the 42nd month. So we're just in the final stages of our piloting and validation metric collection. So in terms of what the Benefits Project has been trying to achieve, it's actually maybe relatively simple. So we'd like to be able to provide affordable, easy to provide or deploy solutions for residential customers. And along these lines, we want to incentivize long-term energy consumption savings and create business models around this to make it a more lasting, viable solution. So with these goals in mind, the project is focused on developing the Benefits app, which is a mobile application designed for household consumers to track their energy consumption. And what I think makes this app a little bit different from a lot of the others that are available on the market is it has a very strong focus on the user engagement component. And as Gecko has been leading these aspects, this is very much what I'd like to focus on today with the presentation. But first, just to give a little bit more information on the application, there's really 3 core pillars that have been worked on through the Benefits Project. First of all, perhaps most simply, is collecting the energy data. So of course, we had a system for installing hardware in the homes of customers to collect the data, as well as all the backend programming and algorithms for disaggregation and energy scheduling. We also had a fairly novel incentive structure based on something called EO2 coins, which is a CO2 reduction currency that is transferred into euros using a blockchain secure technology. So essentially the idea being that as users interact with the app and perform energy saving activities, they would be rewarded by earning these coins. And this leads us to the 3rd component, which I think is really the element that binds these 2 pillars together, which is the behavioral model. So this was where we essentially had the framework that would guide user-centric design, personalized recommendations, and gamified challenges that would facilitate the energy-saving behavior. So we'll get into more of that now, what exactly this means. So the Benefits behavioral model has been designed to map and respond to users' behaviors. So essentially, we wanted to create a system for tracking where the user is at in terms of their energy engagement and then respond to that. So this process starts by categorizing the user into one of 3 different categories. So either involve, engage, or evolve. And after we have this categorization, we can then pinpoint what kind of content should be delivered to them via the app so that they get the best support in line with their needs at that particular time in their journey. So for example, if someone was brand new to the app, presumably maybe not as educated about their home's energy consumption, they would receive simple recommendations and tips that would tell them where they could look in the app for particular information, and importantly, what this means to them and what behavioral changes they can make to impact this. So for example, giving them tips for how they can save energy. And as time progresses and hopefully the user becomes more engaged with the app, the nature of these messages would change to reflect their evolving engagement levels of education, things like this. So the idea is to kind of create this bespoke, customized journey that follows the user as they progress through these engagement phases. And importantly, I mean, we would hope that this improves over time and users become more savvy, but also it's dynamic enough that if they take a step backwards, it'll sort of support them along that journey as well. So to say a little bit more about this sort of personalized content that's delivered based on this framework, to add another layer of personalization, we included design personas. So when users would first log onto the app, they would complete a profiling survey, which would categorize them into one of these 4 categories you see here on the left. And then based on that result, they would receive different content. So the nature of the message wouldn't necessarily change. However, how we would say it would. So for example, if we had someone that was an environmentalist, which as you can see here is maybe a little bit higher on the emotional scale, they would receive a lot more encouragement, a lot more sort of pats on the back, things like this. whereas a rationalist might just get the basic facts and figures, and we would keep it quite simple. So again, trying to speak to the needs of the different users. We also introduced a gamification system as a way to link those incentive coins I mentioned earlier. So the idea here was, as an engagement tool, we wanted users to be logging into the app often and being motivated to make fairly significant changes in their behavior. So therefore, we created several different achievement badges that would be goals for the users as they progress through the app. So for example, the streak badge would challenge users to keep their energy consumption below a baseline for consecutive days. And the longer they would keep the streak going, the more coins they would be awarded. But we didn't only have these challenges that were geared towards energy savings. We also wanted to make sure we were supporting the user in learning more about energy and their home's consumption. So therefore, we also had challenges related to quiz questions. So for example, we might ask them if they knew how much energy their home consumes in an average week. Obviously, these would be delivered early on, but the idea was, again, to start to help the user contextualize this information so they'd be in a better position to understand what it is that they were looking at and how they could change their behavior to impact that. And importantly, we also added this visual component. So as you see on the right, the homepage had this prominent tree, which would respond to how they were progressing and performing in these challenges. So if they were doing well, saving lots of energy, their tree would bloom and grow, more animals would be added in, things like this. Whereas if they were struggling, maybe they weren't doing so great, it would start to sort of wither and die. So this was another indication of how they were doing with their energy savings. And again, this was designed to speak to different kinds of users. So of course, we would also have the traditional graphs and charts you would expect in an app like this, but we also tried to include these more visual components that would speak to other kinds of users where that more analytical data doesn't necessarily resonate as well. And so, as I mentioned before, Benefis is operating in 3 different countries in Europe for piloting, with the goal of trying to explore how this user-centric app works in different contexts. So both in terms of the types of customers, so we're working with customers of utilities, large-scale retailers, and the EO2 coin operator, but also in terms of climate. So we have Austria, Greece, and France as pilots. The idea being, they have different temperatures, of course, different appliances for heating and cooling. So that could also be a factor, something that we can have these challenges and recommendations respond to. And I think, this naturally lends itself to a use case in India where we could apply the same framework, the same model, but work to come up with this bespoke context for content for the Indian context. So for example, earlier, I think there was mention of energy safety being a concern. Perhaps there could be something built out around this, or rooftop solar. Maybe we could think of something that's more tailored to large apartment blocks where there's lots of different people in that community working together. So I think this sort of framework could definitely be applied in India, because I think it's a universal thing. And it's been mentioned before as well, I think today, that we need to be more, have more buy-in from the customer and think about what it is that's going to keep them coming back and interested and make it worth their while to engage with energy. And I think having tools like this, regardless of the country, is always going to be, always going to have a place and going to be a useful tool. So I think that was all I had. I'm not sure how I did on my time, but very quick glimpse into Benefis for you guys.
Thanks a lot, Bonnie. No, I definitely think this is, as you said, an interesting way of seeing how data and blockchain technologies together can actually help the energy transition and engaging end customers to participate. So thanks a lot for that presentation. We'll be following up, as I said, also in the end of the presentations right now. Now we'll be moving on to another project which has actual piloting in India. I'll be very happy to introduce to you now Farhan Farooq, who will be presenting on behalf of the ELAND project focusing on both what is happening in Europe, but also how these learnings from a European context can be utilized and are already utilized in a Indian context. Very much about learning between EU and India and making things happening in both places. Farhan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you very much. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes, perfect. So thank you very much, Thomas, for introduction. And first of all, thank you to all the participants that were speaking before me. I think many interesting discussions there, first with the panel and then also with the other EU projects. And today, I will be presenting a bit of the case from the ELAN project, which is another Horizon 2020 project funded by the European Commission under the framework of Horizon Research and Innovation. So without much delay, I would just like to introduce a bit of the partners. So it's a big consortium, and as Thomas was mentioning, it's a unique setup because we have partners from Europe that are leading the work on different elements of the ELAN project. But we also have two simulated sites, the pilot sites from India, where we have the BYPL partner from New Delhi, the utility from there, and then we have Auroville Consulting, part of the Pondicherry area in Auroville in near Chennai. So yeah, the ELAN project was funded in 2018. It's focused mainly on developing a modular toolbox, which comprises of three main areas. One, starting with community aspects. So really what Bonnie was previously mentioning from the benefits project here is also very important to gather the community perspective and try to gather what they would like to see as part of their solutions for their local energy system. Then it's connected with the technology aspects where we are developing these tools together with our partners from different places in Europe. And then we have a method to be able to develop a business model innovator tool where the sustainable business cases can then help the community take this technology and move it forward. So why ELAN project basically went into its existing is primarily with the focus of connecting these various multi-vector energy systems in a more optimal and efficient way. So looking at the discussion that was happening in the Indian context as well, and I think many of the dignitaries were speaking about the different elements of the distributed energy resources coming on the low voltage or medium voltage level, and then how can we connect them in the most optimal fashion and try to get the maximum value out of these DERs and make our society go towards more sustainable but distributed energy resources. So ELAN project primarily set it up this multi-vector energy framework for all of its pilot sites. So 3 pilot sites in Europe, which I will be mentioning later on, but then 2 pilot sites in Europe, in India as well, where BYPL case is a much more urban context, but then Auroville has a more communal and community role to it. But first, we looked at the different vectors that are present in each of the pilot, and then how can we interconnect them in the most optimal way. So we have a different version of this kind of a diagram for each of the pilots in Europe, particularly where we have the electricity grid coupled with the thermal systems, and then also in some cases we have the gas grid connected as well. So how can we manage all these 3 or more energy vectors in a most optimal way? And this is where the ELAN toolbox comes into the shape. So we have the tools that basically takes into account the community aspects that I mentioned previously. So where our partners from Gecko Global and others are collaborating in order to develop some community perspective and bringing us from the technical point of view some knowledge on what kind of things makes more sense and what the community wants to see in these pilot sites. Then we connected to the business development part where we have the business model innovator tool where my colleagues from Smart Innovation Norway and also University of Sandgallen come together and develop these patterns that are valuable for these communities to have sustainable business cases so that they are able to basically run these technical tools after the project is finished and are able to sustain it with the business models developed during the project lifetime. And finally, we have the technology layer, where we have many different aspects to discuss, and I will go into further more detail later on. And then we have the pilot side that are connecting to the actual physical devices and bringing us the data that the technical tools then can more leverage on. But how these technical tools look like? So everything you see in the yellow here are the technical tools developed or the new innovations developed within the ELAN toolbox, and that are helping facilitating this optimization of multi-vector energy systems. So first, if you go from the bottom, we have the distributed energy resources that I highlighted previously. So we have the solar PVs, we have the battery management systems or electric vehicles, charging stations, and also like in one cases, we have even cranes as well from the port. And then we connect all this to their local energy management system. So this is the legacy system that is there on the site, or it could be also another system that could be installed if the pilot owner wants it. Then we connect it to the enterprise service bus, which is developed by our partners from Greece, from Unicom, which basically can connect with any legacy energy management system. And then it creates kind of an integration layer where all these other tools can be connected, where basically the optimal scheduler and the energy forecaster helps in design in predicting the short-term goal on how to manage the energy vectors in the most optimal way. Then the long-term planning is done by the multi-vector simulator, where the user can interact with it and develop it further. And then we have the front-end systems where the users can interact and play around with web applications and set up what they are looking for. So primarily, before I conclude the last part, the three high-level use cases that we were looking at in the ELAN project, and then mapping these three high-level use cases for each of the pilot side. And I would particularly go into detail on the Indian side, because that's the setting of today. So where we are particularly looking with BYPL on how to manage new demand response initiatives, and also some optimal management within the local energy systems, part of the New Delhi area, where there are some microgrids, but also some universities and some facilities where these tools can be leveraged. And then, so the main objective of these technical tools is first to get the data. So the on-field data is being processed. Then the forecasting happens on how it will look like the next day for the optimal schedule. The planning is created, and then the schedules are generated and then deployed on the site. And this all happens through the integration platform that I showed you with the enterprise service bus within the legacy system. So in a nutshell, so we have the three pilots that are running in Europe right now, where we are now in the stage of test casing, so developing test cases and testing all the technologies. And then we will be doing the piloting in next 6 months. So within the next 1 year, we will be having concrete results for all these tools that are developed. And finally, the two pilot sites, just to mention them, BYPL, as I mentioned previously, will be utilizing the simulated versions of the tool. So they will be simulating their on-site assets in order to get the maximum value. And then the Auroville will be using the same tools for their community goals and try to achieve the impact that they are looking at. So with that final concluding comment, because I'm over my time as well, is that together with the Indian pilots, we are now looking to develop the replication toolkits. And this could be our way forward with the other Indian stakeholders, and in order to see on how we can replicate all these tools on the Indian context. So with that, thank you very much. And I look forward to any questions in the chat.
Thank you very much, Farhan. Very interesting, and not too much over time, but yes, we'll make sure to collect all the questions in the chat, as you said. I'm very happy now to also have given the floor to the Merlon project. Katarina Varalaki will be presenting on behalf of the Merlon project, also in relation to energy vectors optimization and smart grids. So a different perspective, but also along the same lines as we just heard Farhan. Katarina, the floor is yours. We don't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now we hear you, yeah, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Thomas, and thank you all for this interesting organization that gives us the opportunity to exchange ideas, knowledge, and experience from our projects. So let me share my screen.
Yes, we see your screen.
So I assume that you can see my screen now. So I'm Katerina Valalaki, and I'm going to present you Merlin project on behalf of Hypertech Energy Labs, which is actually the coordinator of the project. Merlin is an integrated modular energy system and local flexibility training for neural energy islands. Our consortium is composed of 13 partners spanning around 6 EU countries. The project duration is 3 years, and now we are at the first stages of the third year of the project. And Merlin Consortium fosters synergies and collaboration with India. I have to highlight here that in our governance structure, we have NZEN as an advisory board in order to help us and guide us in identifying the replicability potential of the Merlin solution in India. We don't have Indian pilot site. However, we are about to examine the demonstration activities of the project in the Indian context. Furthermore, Merlin is supporting organization in the clean energy for EU islands, by the BRICS initiative. So a few words about Merlin. Its strategic goals are to increase the integration of renewable energy sources and the security of supply, is the EU energy future, and to provide cost-efficient solutions in order to avoid grid infrastructure upgrades. Among the distributed energy resources that Merlin deals with are renewable energy sources, mainly PV plants, both at district level and residential rooftop PVs. Battery energy storage systems, the whole study regarding its sizing, planning, purchase, installation in pilot sites fall within the scope of the project, and local energy system optimization using demand response, electric vehicles, and synergies among energy vectors. The major stakeholders involved are distribution system operators, DSOs, aggregators, prosumers, and asset managers, and collectively contributing to energy communities. Merlin contributes to the energy transition era through the definition and realization of effective business model for energy communities and the provision and holistic integration of advanced ICT interoperable solution that put citizens at the center. Merlin creates a framework where at the bottom level, it introduces human-centric innovation and provides a non-intrusive IoT ecosystem in order to provide the technological means to exploit building flexibility and valorize it for participation in explicit demand response programs. This is further enhanced with distributed intelligence and multi-level optimization that is applied in different levels, spanning from local generation, demand, and storage. And all these are nicely coupled using a transparent marketplace that ensures a fair benefit distribution among involved actors. As mentioned before, Merlon also promotes the battery energy storage system integration, specific points of the distribution network of 2 pilot sites. And here all together are integrated and coordinated in an optimal way in order to provide and support distribution grid management, including islanding mode using a battery energy storage system with grid forming capabilities, and provide also balancing and ancillary services to the upstream network. The whole integrated solution comes to realize the innovative business models examined in the project, where actually the Merlon Energy community takes the role of aggregator or takes the role of DSO at a higher level. Let's focus a little bit on the human-centric innovation at the bottom level of this technological value chain. As mentioned before, Merlon introduces a human-centric innovation where prosumer information, infrastructure are linked together in order to enhance prosumer empowerment, utilizing IoT infrastructure and distributed intelligence. Here it comes also the optimal coordination of different energy sources at building level. We explore building synergies, combining electricity with power-to-heat technologies and electromobility in order to provide and construct a unique building flexibility profile that can be utilized by an aggregator to support its own business processes. Merlon integrated solution is going to be demonstrated in 2 pilot sites at the distribution network of at the Crevillent site in Spain, and the distribution network of Goosing, the area of
I think we lost Katerina.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we hear you. There was a lag. Sorry, you're back.
Okay. So here you can see the distribution grid of the area of Strem of the DSO Goosing. So a number of prosumer have been engaged and are actual pilot users where a specific IoT infrastructure have been installed to their dwellings. And participate as part of the aggregator's portfolio and the relevant Merlon business cases. Other assets involved are district PV power plants, EV charging stations, and as mentioned before, the battery energy storage system that has been sized, planned, purchased, and currently has been installed in both pilot sites in Austria and in Spain. And currently now we are at the final phase of the integration activities of the holistic integrated solution that Merlon provides in order to be able to demonstrate the Merlon use cases, mainly focused on supporting distribution management and security of supply by examining Merlon community taking the role of DSO, while on the other hand, to also demonstrate another use case of providing balancing and ancillary services by assuming that the Merlon energy community takes the role of an aggregator. As I mentioned before, we are at the 3rd year of the project, so we have some lessons learned to share with you and some challenges that we have faced until now. First of all, as it has mentioned by other colleagues during this workshop, the user acceptance. Indeed, we have identified that the active engagement of users and the whole community is critical in order for increase the willingness of citizens to participate in Merlin activities. So willingness for participation of citizens in demand response and flexibility provision relevant activities. On the other hand, we have identified the importance of the existing electricity network infrastructure, and it's applied directly real-life innovative modes like the one introduced in Merlin, involving mainly the transition from on to off-grid modes and back as part of the interconnected local energy cluster grid model. Furthermore, we have faced some difficulties based on the unstable regulatory framework that still exists in Europe, that poses some barriers on the actual experimentation under real-life conditions upon innovative business model like the ones introduced in Merlin. For example, we can mention the minimum size of bids for participating in ancillary markets. And one final thing that mainly has to do with data gathering, data collection, and so on, is a difficulty that we have faced in terms of connecting public EV charging points in the overall Merlin framework. Actually, we need to consider that specific arrangements should take place with the owners of the EV charging points, in order, of course, respecting the GDPR provisions, in order for a massive uptake of such a solution to be considered within the EU framework. So last but not least, about EU-India collaboration and the position of Merlin in this, as mentioned before. The demonstration activities in Merlin are about to start. The relevant task dealing with the scaling up and replication in Europe and India has just started. And we are here to discuss the business cases and use cases proposed in Merlin, to identify together common points, bridge any identified gaps. Perhaps a useful thing that we can discuss and further work on after this workshop is to establish something like a common terminology, or create a common distribution list with projects that have similar vision, technologies, and use cases. Of course, organize collaborative events and workshops like the one that we are participating now. And this will give, I think, the means and the tools to all the projects and stakeholders presented here today to assess the relevant technological and business frameworks and their replicability potential to India. So that's all from the Merlin project. Here you can find also our social media links, and we are at your disposal for any collaboration, question, activities that you may have.
Thank you very much, Katarina, for the presentation and giving us insights in what is happening in the Merlin project. Now is the time yet to have the last presentation of the ongoing EU projects. It is the MuseGrid project presented by Alessandra Cuneo. So please take the floor and tell us a little about what is happening in MuseGrids.
Okay, great. So first of all, thanks to you, Thomas, and to the organization of this workshop. Can you see the screen?
We see you.
Okay. Okay, so you can see the presentation.
No.
No? Okay.
Now you're sharing the screen. Thank you.
Okay, great. So if I put in presentation mode.
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so first of all, for the invitation, and I'm Alessandra Cuneo from Rina Consulting, and I'm the project coordinator of MuseGrids, which is a project funded by the European Commission. It's a project that started in November 2018 and is 4-year project, so we are more or less in the middle of its duration. It involves 18 partners from all around Europe, but we have also one partner from India, because in the project we will see later, we involve India as one of the pilot sites in which we demonstrate MuseGrid solution, which are related to tools for the better integration of different energy networks. So the idea of MuseGrids is to enhance the synergies between different energy networks. So we are dealing with the electricity network, the gas network, the heat network, and the water network, and optimize the management of the different assets connected to the network to make the pilot site self-dependent. So the idea is to demonstrate both technological solutions, so in terms of hardware, of technologies, but also non-technological solution towards the local energy independency, creating a smart energy system in the pilot site. And in the project, and especially in 2 of the demo sites, we strong work on creation of local energy community and engage the citizen to be active in manage and their energy needs. This is just a brief overview of the project team, which is a very industrial-driven consortium. We have more or less 3 cluster of partners, one from Belgium, which is where there is one pilot site. The second one is in Italy, which is the second pilot site. We have a strong cluster in Spain, in which we have 2 virtual demo sites. But also, as I mentioned, outside Europe, we have a linked third party of EPTISA, which is based in Kolkata in India. And we have a second non-European partner in Israel, because also here we are going to work on energy community. So the project is mainly based on 4 different pillars. The first one is the development of a tool that can properly optimize and aggregate the energy grid management system in what we call a multi-energy demand side management. So this control optimization tool is based on 2 different levels. The high level is very generic in order to increase its scalability and replicability in all the demo sites. So it will be the same for all the demo sites. And then there will be a second level, what we call a low level, which is tailored for the specific constraints, needs, and assets that are properly for a specific demo site. The second pillar is another tool. It's a multi-energy planning tool for cities. So it's a tool developed for municipality for planning their energy grid, their local energy system in the future. So to understand, based on mapping the local energy demand and the local energy sources and assets available, how to planning their energy grids. And this tool will be tested and used in all the demo sites, especially in the Indian one, which is based in West Bengal. I will show you a slide later on. But the idea here is to use the tool for the planning for increasing the self-dependency of the demo site in India in the future. And with the tool, you can simulate different scenarios. So if we increase the renewable energy share, or if we increase the number of electrical vehicles or whatever, we can simulate different scenarios and what happens to the energy grid. The third pillar is related to the demonstration and the replication. We have two real demo sites in Europe, one in Belgium and one in Italy. And here we are going to install several flexibility assets, starting from smart electrical thermal storage, electrical energy storage, EV chargers, with the aim of vehicle to grid purposes, so to exchange in a bidirectional way the electricity with the grid. We have hybrid heat pumps or thermal energy storage, and such flexibility assets, such hardware, are of course replicable and can be installed everywhere. And aim is to increase the flexibility of the whole grid, so not only the electrical one, but also the heat and the water one. And the fourth pillar is related to the engagement of the end users and creation of energy community. We are very active with Bridge, which is an initiative from Europe, but the part related to the consumer engagement towards the creation of local energy community is a point that it's really stressed and analyzed within the project, not only in Europe, but also in India. So to understand which are the challenges of the creation of the local energy community as front runners in the energy transition, and try to have a continuous cross-cutting and feedback from Europe and India. So to understand what we are doing in Europe could be replicable in India and otherwise, because on this social aspect in India, we are very, very active, more than the technical part. This is just a brief overview of the pilot site. We have two real demonstrations in Europe. And here we are going to install the control, to install the different flexibility assets, to evaluate which is the benefit of proper managing the, to properly enhance the synergy among the energy networks. While we have 4 virtual demonstrations, 2 in Spain, 1 in Israel, and 1 in India. And here we are just study the possible solution and apply the tools that we are almost developing now, just at simulation level, and study the creation of local energy community. So from a technical point of view, we are not going to install anything, we are not going to control anything, but the work is more related on simulation level. So what will happen if we are going to install this, and on social aspects. In particular, the Italian demo site is situated in an historical town in the center of Italy, on top of the hill, with a district heating network and smart water pumping system. And here we have already installed several flexibility assets, and we are in the phase of deploy the control system. And the main objective of this demo site is exactly the integration of the different energy networks. While the second demo site, it's a rural area in Udeverly, which is in Belgium, close to Brussels. Here we have involved a street with 40 houses, and the aim is to promote the flexibility asset and engage the local energy community. So here, the main part is related on the electrical grid, because there are several problems on the power quality and the voltage dropout, because it's at the end of the street. And there is a strong work on the engagement of the citizens that live in the fourth house. While this is the demo site in India, it's in West Bengal area. It's a rural village, and here currently there is no power connectivities, but the local company is going to install several meters under progress, and the idea is to monitor the consumption and the production and simulate some part of the village in order to develop a local smart grid. Also based on different solar systems. So the work in Bali Island is just started. So we will have, we promote results from India pilot site in the next month. Okay, we just dropped to the last slide of my presentation that I would like to show to you which are the main challenges we face during this 2-year and a half of the project, which can be divided in 4 main topics. So the first one is related to the regulatory framework, because for some part there is a vague or imprecise description, and there could be problems in the regulatory, also in the definition of energy community. The second point is related to the economic part, because the economic barriers and challenges are mainly related to the investments to be done, and the local grid tariffs to be used inside the local energy community. On technical side, okay, there are well-known, I think, technical limitations mainly to demand-side management strategies and demand-side response. And of course, especially in mixed grids, the main barriers we face is the integration of the different grids when they are owned by different companies. So if you need to integrate the electrical one and the water one, but they are managed by different entities, that could be difficult to manage properly. And on social part, the most barrier and challenge that we face is related to the misperception or the lack of information from end users, and mainly to explain to the end users what is the benefit of an energy community in a very simple way to them, because we are used to be very technical and precise, while we need to engage the consumer in a very simple way and try to make them more active and cooperative. So that's all for me. I'm available by email or by chat for any question or interest you have on the project, and you have all the reference for the social media to follow the project activities.
Thanks a lot, Alessandra. Also, I think a very interesting presentation here. And I think what we have seen now is basically many of the different aspects that is going on in the current projects, Horizon 2020, and especially, of course, in relation to the collaboration in India. We are running a bit behind schedule. We have approximately 15-20 minutes left, and then Matthew Kai will be summing up in the end until the 5 o'clock, where this session will be ending. However, I'm very happy now to have the opportunity to also give you an introduction to 2 new projects that are just currently being under negotiation for the grant, just being funded. And the first one of those would be a presentation together between Sakir Ather and Jay Pillai, who will be presenting the sustenance project. So please take the floor, and very happy to hear about the new project that is coming.
Thank you, Thomas, and also the members in the organizing committee for giving us the opportunity to present this project. Can you see my, I hope you can see my...
Yes, we hear and see everything. Very good, thank you.
Great. Yeah, myself, Jay Krishnan Pillai. I'm an associate professor at Aalborg University in Denmark, and I'm presenting on behalf of our project coordinator, Peter Bach Jensen, who is also my colleague at the department. And joining along with me is Zakir Hussain, who is from IIT Bombay. He is in charge of the coordinating, or is in charge of the project activities in India. Our project, Sustenance, it stands for, wait a minute, let me minimize this screen. Yeah, Sustenance stands for Sustainable Energy Systems for Achieving Novel Carbon Neutral Energy Communities. And as Thomas has just mentioned, this project is invited for funding under the EU-India collaboration platform under the topic Integrated Local Energy Systems or Energy Islands. And it's expected that we start the project by middle of this year. About the consortium, in sustenance project, we have around 24 partners, 13 partners from EU in 3 countries, Denmark, Netherlands, and Poland, and of course 11 partners from India. And we have a good representation from the universities, research institutions, industries, technology providers, distribution system operators, including utilities for heat, also municipalities, housing cooperatives, housing cooperatives, and also I would say, housing, I would say community as well as such. Apart from that, we have quite a good amount of beneficiaries as well as associated partners in the form of NGOs, also housing societies, also additional utilities, distribution system companies, and also startups. About the objectives of our project, we aim to build a carbon neutral energy community by establishing local, sustainable, and efficient integrated energy systems. When we say integrated energy systems, the use of multi-carrier energy systems, different vectors, different energy vectors like electricity, heat, cooling, gas, waste, and water. And this is realized by developing and demonstrating smart techno-socio-economic and eco-friendly solutions and tools for affecting this multi-carrier system. And of course, very important, the collective action in communities. And this in turn will, try to maximize the use of hosting capacity of renewables in the local grids, smartening the distribution networks, increase the energy efficiency, and enhance the quality of life for the citizens in those communities. And we have, different pilot activities in different, European, all the 3 European countries that I've stated before, and also the Indian neighborhoods, facilitating mutual learning, knowledge transfer, co-innovation, and for enhancing the value of innovation solution developed, and also for replicability in other communities in the same countries and over different regions, as well as beyond these 4 countries. About the Indian demonstrator, we have 3 pilot activities forming this local integrated energy communities. The first one is a remote village in Jharkhand, state of Jharkhand. Second is the one in Assam, which is also a rural village with a weak grid access. And the third one is a smart active building at the IIT campus. We will go a bit in detail about the various demonstration sites in India. The first one, as I mentioned, is in the state of Jharkhand. This is a village named Barbera. And the aim is to demonstrate this integrated local energy community as such, and then provide them with uninterruptible electricity supply. And this is specifically a remote tribal village where they lack the access of the clean, or I would say, in the figure you can see here, the cooking, they are mostly from the firewood or cow dung, so replacing it with biogas and biomass, and also the clean water. This is a well which is located 1.5 kilometers far from the inhabited area of the community. So applying renewable electricity like solar PV and pump systems to have better access of the water. And also the transportation is a bit far away. It's 3 kilometers away from the main road, and also having e-rickshaws that is also charged from the renewable based supply. And the targeted number of households is 57 in this community. So overall, the energy vectors, as you can see in the slide, it includes electricity, water, clean transport, cooking, heating, and cooling, as well as energy storage. And in the second demonstration site, that is in the state of Assam, it's a village named Borkai. where it is, they do have a grid connection, but there's a weak grid connection there. So this integrated system will provide a better, reliable, and uninterruptible energy supply to the whole community here. And the targeted households is 40 in this demonstration site. And also a unique part here is the utilization of this micro energy clusters, like having a multi-port converter, bidirectional converter system and a smart transformer in the form of 4 clusters. That per cluster we have around 10 houses that is planned to be demonstrated in this pilot activity. And the various energy vectors that is considered for this demonstration site, it includes electricity, water, irrigation, which is also a unique one for this demonstration site. Transport, of course, here, the e-rickshaws, and also the energy storages. It includes both batteries and other thermal kind of storages. Also, not the least, the renewables, PV, as well as wind turbines, local wind turbines. And the third Indian demonstration site, as I mentioned before, is at the IIT campus. The idea is to have a local integrated system for a smart active building, applying a building energy management system so as to take in more renewable electricity, increase the energy efficiency. And a unique aspect here is also the electric vehicle charging, smart control charging, and analyze the local grid and come up with the smart control so that there is no congestion, so there is no reinforcement of the existing grid. So the vectors targeted here are the transport, electricity, heating, and cooling. Moving on to the Danish demonstration, we have a village called Stær, and we target around 20 households here in the village of Stær, which is in the Skanderborg municipality. And the main focus here, I would say, is to replace the natural gas-based boiler systems with heat pumps, and also running the heat pumps with the PV, the local PV installed. And also, as we know, Denmark has a lot of wind, so we also use whenever we have hours of excess wind from the grid. And the vectors, as I said, is power to heat. That is one of the primary vector. And we will also have this power to mobility in terms of smart control of smart charging control of electric vehicles in the neighborhood, supported by battery systems and PVs. And Skanderborg municipality is highly involved in this project, so where we can have a better, citizen involvement and citizen participation. So they are directly part of this particular project. And also we will ensure that the grid is smartened and there is no need for any grid reinforcement and postpone it from a DSO point of view. About the Dutch demonstrator in the Netherlands, we are aiming for this tiny houses in the campus of University of Twente, who is a partner in the project, along with a neighborhood energy community. They already have kind of partly established integrated systems, which has around 24 houses in the neighborhood. And the energy vectors here includes heat, electricity, the transportation, and the other solution includes battery energy storage, PV, and the wind. Here also the focus is like to replace these natural gas for heating and apply electrification through renewables. And also in this demonstrator, we are also planning to establish smart grid interfaces, smart grid controls, and also the use of dashboards, monitoring, and direct user interface by the community using IoT platforms. Moving on to the Polish demonstrator, that is the fourth country that we have in our consortium. Here we target 5 multi-family residential buildings. It is in a small city called Sopot. And the vectors here are, of course, electricity, heat, transport. And when you say transport, we also are looking forward for the vehicle to grid facilities from the electric vehicles. And there's also battery storages in terms of flow batteries, which is unique for this demonstrator. And also from the renewable point of view, it is the PV panels. And apart from these integrated system, we also targeting for the enhancement of the automation of the local grid. One of the characteristics of this site is that it's also a weak grid, similar to that what we have in one of the demonstrators in India. We have a weaker grid. So the plan is to have the DSO implementing an observability modules, advanced metering interfaces, and data concentrators to optimize the operation of the distribution grid that is connected to this company. And of course, the society, the housing society itself is very keen, and they are an active member in this project. About the work package structure for sustenance project, we have around 9 work packages, starting with the project administration and management and administration. And we have this, the verticals that is work package 4 to 7. They are the 4 demonstration sites in Denmark, India, Netherlands, and Poland, respectively. And then we have the cross-cutting work packages, which facilitates mutual learning and co-sharing of knowledge and information across different demonstration sites, like the work package 2, which mostly deals with the technical modeling, analysis, and also solutions. Work package 3, we have the socio-economic and regulatory mechanisms that will be formed in order to formulate such energy communities across these 4 different demonstrators. And in work package 8, we have this benchmark model tools, the social innovations, as well as the roadmap and business models for realizing such self-sufficient energy communities, and which can be replicated forward in different other regions and other countries. Finally, we have the work package 9, which is equally important, the communication, dissemination, and exploitation of the results and the innovations that we come across in sustenance project. And finally, the last slide, this is a metrics which is shown in a table where these are the different innovation actions or the solutions that we plan to work in this project, which will facilitate co-innovation as well as mutual learning between different countries, as well as different between EU and India. For example, if you take the smart integration of heat pumps, the Danish demonstration, they will lead this activity. And the Netherlands, they co-lead. India and Poland will learn as well as follow this activity. When you take the second example, interconnecting these micro energy clusters, India will lead this activity. The Netherlands partners, they will, and as well as the industrial partners, they will co-lead. And Poland and Denmark will be learning and also following these activities. If you go to the last one, that's a smart integration of this flow battery system, flow energy batteries. The Poland will lead this activity, and the 3 other countries will follow it and learn from this innovation. And also, this is not only the technical part, this is also about socio-economics and community involvement. We also have other innovations here. Let's take one, for example, novel business and community-based ownership models. Basically, it's the Netherlands that take the lead, and India as well as Denmark will take the co-lead, and Poland will follow the activity in their demonstration sites. Yeah, that's what I have to present, and thank you very much. All questions are open. Yeah. And Sakir is also available for any questions regarding the Indian demonstration sites. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Krishnan. Very interesting and very nice to hear that you're already settled for a very interesting project. We have already run out of time, but I'm sure they will be interested enough to follow up with some questions, and also to have the opportunity to listen now to the other project, Re-Empower, that will be presented now by Mr. Nikos Hasiagiriou. I'm not sure I pronounced that right, but anyway, welcome to you, and please present Re-Empower. And last but not least, we will then have a session with Francisco da Silva Passos, who will be presenting on energy storage technologies.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Good afternoon, everybody. Just let me share my screen.
we see your...
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So, good afternoon. My name is Nikos Hadjiargiriou. I'm professor at the Technical University of Athens. And I have been chairman and CEO of the Greek Distribution System Operator, and also chair of the European Technology Platform on research and innovation for smart networks and energy transition. And I have the pleasure to coordinate this project together with Professor Chandan Chakraborty from the who will lead the Indian partners from the Indian Institute of Technology of Kharagpur. The project called Re-Empowered is about renewable energy empowering European and Indian communities. It is within the Horizon 2020 calls together. It will also be co-funded by DST from India. So this slide shows the partners of the project. As you see, the partners come from 4 European countries. This is Greece, which is a coordinator. ICS&TV is the coordinator. UK, Denmark, and Spain. Regarding the partners from Europe, we have research institutes, universities, also island operators like Bornholm. We have industrial partners like Protasys, and we have also Deloitte, which is an advisory company, and Daphne, who is a local communities representative of Greek islands, represented in the Aegean Sea. And from the Indian side, we have the Indian Institute of Technology in Kharagpur, Indian Institute of Technology in Bhubaneswar, Central Mechanical Engineering Research Institute, Lab Concern, Visvesvaraya National Institute of Technology at the Indian Institute of Science. So we have quite a balanced consortium between European and Indian partners. The main goal of this project is to develop and demonstrate solutions for energy transition of local energy systems based on multi-energy microgrids, which means interconnecting multiple energy sectors. This multi-energy structure will be used to optimize their joint operation. The benefits will be demonstrated in 4 pilot sites, leading to an increased share of renewable generation and higher energy efficiency of the wider local energy system. This slide shows the 3 main pillars where the project will try to satisfy. The first is to increase energy efficiency, renewable utilization, and reliability. The second is to foster sustainable and economic development of local communities. And the third is to enhance the exchange, replicability, and scalability of the solutions in European Union and India. And each of these has a number of tasks. And to satisfy these pillars, we are developing 10 tools that you see here, and I'm going to describe some detail next. So these tools or solutions for local energy systems will be developed or enhanced and will be demonstrated in the 4 pilot sites, to in Europe and to in India. These are complementary sites in size, organizational, and technical maturity. The solutions involve planning tools for designing and upgrading energy systems in the larger areas, control optimization tools to manage microgrids, to develop interoperable platforms to integrate energy carriers and help digitalization of the system, and advanced hardware infrastructure to upgrade local systems. In more detail, we have the EcoEMS, which will be a tool that provides energy management for optimizing the performance of a larger isolated area or parts of the grid that are weakly connected. We have the Eco Microgrid, which will be responsible for the management and optimization of microgrids. Eco Planning will support the planning of rural isolated or weakly interconnected systems. So it optimizes installation of a mix furnace technologies, and the main aim is to increase renewable generation. The EcoDR, this will support demand-side management via load scheduling and incentive-based demand response. Eco Platform, this will be a platform for the integration of all developed solutions and facilitate digitalization and interoperability. Eco Monitor, this will include smart sensors to monitor the air and water quality, to provide insights regarding possible corrective actions and the impact of the renewable integration. Eco Community, this is a platform that will be dedicated to the energy community's members and stakeholders to facilitate their active involvement in the energy system as consumers. Eco-resilience, this will develop resilient photovoltaic and wind turbine assets so that they can withstand the extreme weather conditions such as high cyclones and floods. Eco-converter, this is to develop an economically viable modular plug-and-play converter for DC-AC microgrids, and eco-vehicle that will be used to upgrade small vehicles for transport, namely four-wheelers and small boats. So these solutions are not starting from scratch. Most have some level of development. So there is a past experience in the partners. And the idea is to upgrade them to closer to the industrial level production. This slide shows you the current TRL level and the expected TRL level after the project. So let me now say a few words about the demo sites. We have two European demo sites that are quite emblematic in Europe, are very high profile sites. The one of them is Bornholm Island in Denmark. This island is very important because it has embraced the green agenda for 30 years, aiming to become CO2 neutral in 2025 and zero emissions and climate friendly community by 2035. In 2019, it received the Responsible Island Prize for the share of renewables produced by innovative energy technologies, by having environmental and socioeconomic sustainability and impact, for its citizen and community involvement, and the replicability of the solutions developed. So in this particular project, we will enhance this experience, these activities based on synergies of electricity with other energy carriers. And the aim is to increase energy efficiency, increase RES penetration, integration of energy factors, population awareness, and customer engagement. The second European demo is in Greece, is the Kythnos Island. Kythnos is an island with a long history of sustainable energy installations. The first wind farm in islands in Europe was installed in Kythnos in 1982, and the first microgrid in Europe in Magromandra settlement was installed in 2001. We have just celebrated the 20 years of history of this microgrid. It has included advanced decentralized techniques for demand-side management. They were demonstrated for the first time using multi-agent technologies, and has been used as a live testbed for smart grid technologies within several European projects. So this demo site with real living people that has been used for demos for testing several technologies in the last years. So it is an ideal demonstration site, and in the re-empowerment project, we will apply more digitalized tools and accelerate energy transition of the whole Kythnos Island. We will build an economically sustainable and attractive multi-layer architecture, and we will provide replicable solutions for interconnected islands in Greece and elsewhere. These activities will increase energy efficiency, penetration of renewables, population awareness, and customer engagement. And we have two very, very interesting Indian sites. One is the Goramara Island, which is located 92 kilometers south of Calcutta, with quite poor living conditions. It is also affected by severe cyclonic storms, and the area is isolated from the utility grid, and the residents mostly use kerosene lamps, while some houses use rooftop PVs. And additionally, the area is lacking the supply of pure drinking water. And for transportation, people use paddle boats. So in the Empower project, we will develop a local microgrid system to provide electricity in Goramara, to create a sustainable energy community for the island, and improve the quality of life for the people. So here our aims is to increase the RES penetration, to improve quality of life, to build an energy community, and increase resilience by using, as I told you before, technologies that PVs and wind turbines that are resilient to storms and cyclones. And the next demo site concerns three small villages called Kanegora, Nola, and Ranipada in Harichanabur Tesli Reserve Forest in Kionjar district of Odisha state. These villages are not interconnected to the main utility grid, but have some basic renewable facilities like solar PVs and battery backup. And in the project, we will upgrade them and couple them with various available energy vectors. And they have the same problem of lack of pure water. So we will also look at the facilities for water purification. And the aim is to demonstrate the integration of various energy vectors to promote off-grid systems for energy users. It will generate income in agriculture and small businesses. So this is also very important to see how we will mobilize local communities, local energy community, and also will generate income for agriculture, and optimize the operation of the off-grid systems. So here again, the aim is to increase the RES penetration, energy efficiency, population awareness, and customer engagement. Okay, this slide just shows an overview of the various work packages. You see that we are planning to develop these various tools in work packages 2, 3, 4, and 5 to develop work on the energy community development, deployment, and business models. And of course, simulation and experimentation. So that concludes my presentation, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Nikos, and thank you all now for the presentations on the EU projects. We are luckily also having a last presentation that will be providing us insights into storage technologies. Francisco da Silva Passos, I'm very happy to give the floor to you to run off basically all these presentations as of today with different insights into the projects that are going on. It will be summed up after this presentation by Matthew Cray, as I said before, very briefly. So please stay with us for an additional 5-10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Thomas. I'll be brief, promise. So thank you so much for putting this session together. Thank you to the Indian Smart Utility Forum and the French Embassy that is also part of that supports this project. So I'll just present briefly our group, our company, the project, and then the importance of energy storage in India, specifically non-mainstream technologies. Okay, I'll let you know why. Briefly, the group Blue Solution is part of the group Bolloré. It is a 2-century-old group present in India, but all over the world through its transportation and logistics arm. Bolloré operates a port in Tamil Nadu and several in Africa. Vivendi, communication and entertainment, owner of Universal Music Studios, and pay TV editing business, and Blue Solutions, the company I represent today. So Blue Solutions is built around its own technology. Blue Solutions has been investing 3 billion euros over the last 20 years to reach the solid state technology. Today, Blue Solution is the only producer and commercializer of solid state technology. This is the way energy storage is going. So we are a pioneer in this, happy to do so. And competition and partnerships are raising so much to reach solid state technology as a new mainstream. Okay? So we produce our batteries in France and Canada. So our technology is called lithium metal polymer, and that's a roll of lithium you see there on the top right corner of the image. And from there we build packs for buses, as we see the pack for Daimler. We also produce our own buses, but here what we are presenting in India is really our stationary storage solution. That's what we see below there, an outdoor box that has capacities that are really adapted to the Indian market. So what's the project about? What do we want to demonstrate? So here, India has very ambitious programs regarding electric mobility. So we thought, with the support of the CEA, which is a leading research institute in France, we thought with CEA to do a smart charging station and propose it to the SECI, thanks to the support of the Indian and the French government. So we are looking now with SECI at where to place it for the moment, but financing and design are done, so ready to deploy. One storage solution of 200 kilowatt hour, 100 kVA of power, 5 charging spots, powered with the innovative technology of the CEA, which is a bipolar PV, bifacial PV, and the intelligence. So here there is a great part in this project is about study and intelligence. So how to design an energy management system to, with the solar, charge the cars as much as possible, but also to use the battery and the PV to feed the grid. It's not only on that way, on the feeding, but also the storage. Of course, here it's a pilot, but with this storage solution, we want to show the grid services that we can provide in India and helping to stabilize the grid and to really boost the penetration of renewable energies. So yeah, more power is required. The consumption in India is increasing fastly. So in an unstable grid, so it is important to put storage at the center of the strategy. Okay. So on one side, we maximize the solar mobility, if we can say, and on the other, we keep a grid stable, and we even propose services to the grid to stabilize it. Okay. So why is this project interesting? Because here we are not using the mainstream lithium-ion batteries, which we know have trouble in several climates. I put here extreme climates, might be a bit too tough, but in cold days in the Northern Europe, electric buses stop. The same happened, and the same happens in very hot places. So you need to cool down the batteries. A lot of energy is just used to keep the batteries at 20 degrees, 23 degrees, right? And this is what we propose with the LMP, the solid state technology, where cooling the batteries is not needed. So having batteries at 40 plus degrees in sunny days in India is not something that worries our technologies. So that's why I speak here about robustness, high performance, because you can actually have all the energy of the battery available without the capacity fading like in other technologies, and without using any electricity for to decrease the temperature of the battery. Lastly, eco-friendly. We are seeing pressure on raw materials in the battery sector. Nickel, for instance, cobalt, which is extracted in conditions that are sometimes not so clear in Africa, mainly in Congo, and solvents. So all of this we don't have. The lithium metal polymer, is lithium metal, phosphate, and polymer. That's it. So less components makes it also easier to recycle. Today, we reach 100% recovery of lithium, and that's where we want to start a circular economy. As India will require important volumes of battery, I think it's important to put this question now before scaling technologies that are not suited for the environment and that are not recyclable as it is needed. Okay, so here, well, we might be a bit. I went fast, but we might be a bit delayed for questions. But I would be very pleased to speak with you all about the technology struggles we have with batteries, and the importance of not putting the baskets in the same egg, especially when we speak about batteries. So thank you so much, and happy to discuss.
Thank you very much, Francisco, and thank you for the, as you said, very important considerations in relation to the future of storage technologies. As you said, we are a bit behind schedule, but nonetheless, I think we had a lot of interesting perspectives here. So Mathieu, I think it's for you maybe to summarize a little bit and give a few thoughts on the way forward. So very pleased to give the floor to you, and thank you very much to all the speakers and presenters. I think you've done a great job, so thanks a lot.
Hello, Thomas. Good afternoon, everybody. You hear me well, I suppose?
Hear you well.
Okay, thank you. Would be a too difficult job to summarize, really, and we are late, so I will only take 2 or 3 minutes, I hope. Just by saying that indeed, well, I think we can be very pleased with what has been shown in the session today. When we started this EU-India Smart Grid Cooperation in 2015, it started with mere, let's say, exchanges between, okay, what is happening in the EU, what is happening in India, and so on. And it was after a couple of years that we had these exchanges that we thought, okay, it would be good to also go to the level of working together in projects, working together on certain really important and challenging issues regarding smart grids. And I think the session today has really proven that we have already made a lot of progress in this towards, let's say, this goal of working together in projects. That there's also still a lot of potential to further develop this and to reap also the benefits in there. We started with the presentation on the high-level platform and what is happening in a replication study. We are looking very much forward to this manual, and I hope also that the work that is happening there in the replication study will prove its benefits also when we look at the different projects, because we have seen that a lot of projects, and also within the bridge action, this is a point of attention, look at scalability, replicability, replication potential. Yeah? And when we look at this, I think Thomas in the first session said, okay, we are already working for years, 10 years on this in Europe and so on. But it's very important, as has been stressed by a number of presenters today, to also, when we engage in that cooperation with India, that we look at what is really typical in the context of India. The last presentation by Francisco already mentioned this particular advantages of particular battery solutions for let's say the local context. It can be physical parameters as temperatures, but also the regulatory context and consumers, how they are engaged or can be engaged in such projects. So we attach a lot of importance to that project on replication, and we hope that with the manual of first draft that will be available, that we can support it further so that it can be further taken up, and that there is some legacy of the work as well. And then, yeah, it was really great to see that some of the projects already have resulted in cooperation on demos on sites in India. We have seen then many others who are looking into replication, who have not yet a demo site in India, but look at solutions that are developed in European projects, but how would they be able to be replicated? So I'm thinking of Merlin, Eland, Muse grids, and also great to see that we have now already the first two projects that are more or less are being in the starting phase. The two projects that came out of the joint call that is co-funded by the Horizon 2020 project of your program of the European Commission and the Department of Science and Technology in India. We had a very good response to that call. 53 proposals were submitted. We had, I think, 4 to 5 projects that had nearly the maximum score. So we would really hope that together with DST, we would even find additional funding so that we would not be limited to funding 2 projects that came out of that call. But so there we will continue to talk with the DST on this. As I said, I mean, there is links between the 2 strands, the 2 sessions that we had. So this replication, I think it would be nice that the replication study would have a kind of a project community group in which also what they are producing can be really delivered to all those projects which have EU and Indian entities working together, so that it can also be taken up. Yeah? So perhaps, Thomas, we have to think of a kind of an EU-India bridge, which can start.
Would be nice.
On it in a smaller way, so we will have to find the funds for it. But I think there is potential. If we have already gathered more or less 7, 8 projects now this afternoon, and I think many more would be interested to join. For instance, also on the more innovative things, the blockchains, which was really interesting, those 2 presentations. I heard from Mr. Reggie Pillai from ISGF. There is also 1 or 2 pilots going on in India with blockchain. So perhaps also bringing those projects together in an engagement, in a dialogue, that would be great. So many thanks to all. Many thanks to you, Thomas, for moderating this, gathering the very good set of speakers. And as always, a big thanks to ISGF to host our workshops, which we had already attended today. So we're hoping that many more will follow. And good afternoon to the European colleagues. A good evening by now for the Indian colleagues. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you all the
Thank you very
participants.
much.